Chapter 10:10. After a series of breakthroughs, Su Fong looked at his body. His flesh membrane, dantian, golden origin core, and divine aperture all had 3 Dao mark. Cave Immortal 3 Dao Realm. After activating the Great Circle ability, his vision, hearing, and perception were all different. He could sense the cultivation movements in the cave abodes nearby, as well as the formations in the cave abodes of the disciples. It was too shocking. Without the young immortal leaving his body, he could sense it so well. This was an unfathomable peerless ability. At this moment, the heaven grotto felt like it was about to burst out and suck in his flesh, blood, and meridians. It turned out that after breaking through the 3 Dao realm, the heaven grotto would undergo some changes. It became deeper, more complex, and more mysterious. The heaven grotto looked like a mysterious black hole among the stars. His entire body had transformed, and his fleshly body had become much tougher. Now that his left arm had fused with the dragon subduing wood, Su Fong could use wood-type transformations at will. Furthermore, the black lotus blood threads within his body had also become as thick as silk, and most of them were now capable of circulating true energy. As for the blood transformation true body, it had probably undergone some shocking changes. Once it was used, there was no pain, and it was incomparably tough, like a magic treasure. Because of the breakthrough, his fusion with various magic treasures had reached a new height. He wasn't too worried about magic treasures. After all, after coming to the treasure's secret realm, he could find many ways to fuse magic treasures in the future. What he cared about the most was cultivation technique. The 9 heavenly stars minor art wasn't as powerful as the ethereal enlightenment. Su Fong treated it as an ordinary cultivation technique. He didn't have any cultivation techniques for the Tao of Emperor for now. He could only condense the power of Emperor and fuse it with the flesh fetus divine armor in his body. The blood hell wolf smoke was still powerful. Su Fong still had to cultivate it constantly. Then there was the ethereal enlightenment. This cultivation technique was truly a peerless cultivation technique. The stronger one's cultivation was, the more profound it felt. But still, he couldn't find any secrets. The illusory fire cloud was a cultivation technique that Su Fong had been diligently cultivating recently. Last time, when he obtained the fire vein essence lotus in the desolate swamp astral world, it had caused his yang vein to form pure yang true fire. It also allowed his body to have many shocking flames. Therefore, cultivating the illusory fire cloud made it easier for him to condense fire vein. The 2 most important cultivation techniques were the 9 yang 9 transformations and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Even the ethereal quintessence and illusory fiery cloud couldn't compare to them at all. In addition to these techniques, which were changing as he broke through to the grotto immortal realm, there was another divine ability that Su Fong found difficult to cultivate. It was the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. That was the peerless technique of the Huang Fu Devil Emperor. Unfortunately, he still couldn't use the Void Dust Cauldron. This was not the Taoist hall of Huang Fu City. There were baby Huang Fu and Huang Fu Fei here. If he used such a magic weapon, he would be finished if someone secretly discovered it. Therefore, the Yellow Spring Blood Sea could only cultivate in a part of his body. After cultivating for a while, Red Kite informed Su Fong that Huang Fu Ju had arrived. So it turned out that he was looking for him to officially start cultivating the Tao of artifact refining. After instructing Red Kite to look after the Immortal's Cave, he flew out of the valley with Huang Fu Ju and arrived at the Celestial Lake Peak in no time. This junior apprentice brother looks very spirited. Huang Liao, who was guarding the entrance, was very happy to see Su Fong. Su Fong had a very good impression of Huang Liao. After entering the Celestial Pool Peak, they didn't go to the main passage of the floating bridge. Instead, they went to a passage on the left. Su Fong was able to sense the countless formations inside the Celestial Pool Peak. It was too mystical. The inside of the peak was an entire world. Furthermore, there were several hundred disciples releasing their auras inside. At the end of the cave, there was a formation cave guarded by people. The inside was very large. There were a large amount of ordinary ores, gems, and other unknown materials. There were too many of them, piled up like a mountain. Fortunately, there was a formation here. Otherwise, the mountain's capacity would have exceeded it. Xiaoying, as a new disciple, you have to start up step by step. In these 1,000 years, you have to recognize all kinds of ores, all kinds of materials, all kinds of treasured cauldrons, and all kinds of different flame attribute true flames. You have to familiarize yourself with the spiritual lands, spiritual items, and so on. Huang Fu Ju pointed to a pile of ores of different sizes and colors. These are ores that the sect's disciples have collected over countless years. They're also specimens. You have to familiarize yourself with everything here. Don't be lazy. Every 100 years there will be people coming to test you. At that time, no one will be able to help you. It might seem like there's no one supervising you, but cultivation depends on you. Su Fang was also shocked to see so many materials. He really did need some time to memorize them. He took out a medicinal pill. Yes, senior apprentice brother. Many thanks. This is a spirit-strengthening pill I accidentally obtained. How do you have a middle-grade spirit-strengthening pill? I only get a few every once in a while. This is a reward from the elders when I became the Eternal Star Son. It's not much. Okay, you can start from the basics. Now you're a basic disciple. There are many basic manuals in here. You don't have to stay here for long. You can come here every once in a while. As for the future tests, they'll just be some random tests. If you really want to memorize everything here, I can't do it. Huang Fu Ju took a middle-grade spirit-strengthening pill and left with a smile. In order to make things easier, Su Fang also came out of the cave. He took out some middle-grade immortal essence pills and gave them to the guard disciples on duty. Although they were guard disciples, their cultivation was also shocking. Although they couldn't compare to Huang Liao, they were enough to compare to a cave immortal. They were at least heavenly immortal disciples. At this time, he returned to the cave. Looking at the huge formation and all kinds of materials, he didn't know where to start. Fortunately, he cultivated the heavenly devil disintegration seal and had countless young immortal divine abilities. He wasn't afraid of so many materials. I have to memorize most of the things as soon as possible, and then make a trip to Huang Zhe astral realm as soon as possible. With my current cave immortal 3 Dao realm cultivation, I won't be in much danger if I encounter a heavenly immortal expert. Moreover, the feather fan is almost fused, and my speed has reached the level of a heavenly immortal. Without delay, he activated the heavenly devil disintegration seal and separated many young immortals. They floated from the outside. He couldn't be anxious now. He controlled the young immortals to see every material clearly. Soon outside the cave, 2 extraordinary disciples suddenly came. These 2 disciples' cultivation levels were very shocking. They suddenly asked the guard disciple in a low voice. The guard disciple was shocked and felt that something was wrong. Now that Su Fang came, he said, Huang Fu Xiaoying is inside. She's undergoing basic cultivation. Senior brothers, what are you doing? It's none of your business. If you hear anything, don't say anything. Just pretend that you didn't see anything. If someone comes to find you in the future, you have to say so. Yes. The guard disciple could only answer. He was a guard disciple. It was because his aptitude was ordinary and his progress was slow that he had fallen to this state. How could he dare to offend such a powerful disciple? However, when he saw one of them enter, he suddenly secretly transmitted his essence spirit inside. 2 disciples are looking for me. In particular, a disciple called Mu Shua came in. He didn't expect the guard disciple to suddenly transmit his voice. When Su Fang heard it, he felt that something was wrong. Fortunately, he had given the other party some benefits before. he immediately put away the young immortals. When he turned around, he saw a disciple walk in. Looking at the star robe, he was an expert from the heavenly Tao sect of the star origin realm. His cultivation level was very powerful, even more powerful than Huang Fuju. Star origin realm. When he saw this person come in anger, he knew that he was a kind person. It was not a good thing. Star origin realm. That's right, I remember that Nangong Xiu and Nangong Jun are both disciples of the star origin realm. Could it be that this Mu Shua at this moment, he seemed to have understood? Mu Shua suddenly stopped not far from the entrance and said arrogantly, Huang Fu Dao sect disciple, Huang Fu Shaoing. I'm looking for you. Come forward. Senior apprentice brother, why are you looking for me? Su Fang could only walk 3 meters away from him. What's going on? Mu Shua blinked a few times, then suddenly pointed to the side. A boom rang out as one of the oars shattered. He then shouted coldly, Humph, not only are you not focused when cultivating here, you even dare to break origin stones. Do you know your mistake? This was a blatant attempt to shift the blame onto someone else. Su Fang was furious, but he suppressed his anger. He cupped his fists and said, Senior apprentice brother, although I'm a new disciple, I've never offended you in the slightest. I even have many immortal pills here that I can give to you. He even took out a storage ring. How dare you bribe me after doing something wrong? Mu Shua was furious. Killing intent appeared on his emotionless face. According to the rules, if a disciple doesn't focus on cultivating, breaks origin stones, and contradicts a senior apprentice brother, then senior apprentice brother has the right to punish any disciple. Today, I'll teach you, a disciple who doesn't know what's good for him, a lesson. Senior apprentice brother, you're deliberately bullying me. Is there no way to resolve this matter? I'm just enforcing the law. I won't show favoritism. Senior apprentice brother Tian from the star origin world, I respect you and call you senior apprentice brother, but you want to harm me? How vicious. All I did was offend Nangong Xiu. His cultivation base is lower than yours, and his status is lower than yours. How can he order an expert like you to do things for him? Oh, it seems you're not an idiot. Mu Shua was a bit shocked, but his killing intent didn't disappear. It really is because of Nangong Xiu. It's good that you know that. Humph, Nangong Xiu can't order me around. But the person behind him is an existence I'm afraid of. Since he wants you to die, I have to find a way to kill you. Consider yourself unlucky. You even ended up in my treasured item secret realm. You really want to kill me? Of course. Do you think I'd waste my breath on you? Then think carefully. I'm one of Huang Fu Fei's trusted aides. You have to think carefully. If you touch me, you should know the consequences. Huang Fu Fei. He didn't expect this name. Mu Shua, who was about to attack, suddenly stopped. Su Fang took out a lot of spirit strengthening and congealing pills. I'm just a cave immortal disciple. It's impossible for me to have so many high-grade spirit strengthening and congealing pills. If you attack me again, I'll tell Huang Fu Fei that she's from the Yu sect. Spirit strengthening and congealing pills. Which Star Palace disciple didn't know about them? They came from Huang Fu Dojo. Moreover, a cave immortal disciple couldn't have so many high-grade pills. Bang! Bang! However, unexpectedly, Mu Shua suddenly flashed and returned to his original spot. As for Su Fang, he was sent flying. The huge force made him fly a few feet before he landed on the ground, spitting out blood. I'll give you a good time first. This matter isn't over yet. Mu Shua turned and left. That murderous gaze made the air tremble for a long time. Mu Shua, Nangong Xiu and Nangong Xiu have completely different statuses. Why? He immediately swallowed an immortal pill. After Mu Shua left for a while, Su Fang recovered a little and walked out of the cave. The guard disciple saw that he was injured and didn't dare to ask more. It seemed like he didn't want to get involved in this matter. Senior, is Mu Shua very powerful in the treasure secret territory? After giving the disciple a lot of immortal pills, Su Fang started to size up Mu Shua's background. Author's words. Today, until the 15th, I will be updating twice a day. Chapter 10-11. The guard disciple naturally accepted the elixir. With his talent, he would never become a blacksmith master. He could only become a disciple who knew how to refine weapons. He asked Su Fang to come to the side. There are many mediocre people like me in our celestial pole peak. When we first arrived, we were all eternal star sons. Unfortunately, we had the same starting line, but we lost in cultivation and talent. Mu Shua came to look for you just now. With my position, I naturally couldn't stop him. Don't blame me. How can I blame senior brother? If you didn't tell me to be prepared, my meridians would have been broken by him. I might even have died in his hands. This person is very powerful. He deliberately broke the origin stone and wronged me. Besides, I talked back to senior brother. So I really want to know his background, especially in such a big place. You're not the only one who can't stand him. I can't stand him either. Ever since he became a genius, he's always been superior to me. When he speaks, he's always looking up to the sky. This Mu Shua is a disciple of the celestial origin world. After becoming an eternal star son, he came to the precious tool secret territory. Through cultivation, he became a core disciple here, but he's only an upper-middle level disciple. He doesn't have any influence in the sect, but a peerless genius from the celestial origin world. I've only met this Li Tianqi a few times. He's been a special disciple in the inner Taoist temple for a long time. There are many legends about him, and he's been a mysterious dragon for many years. Because of this, many disciples have tried to curry favor with him. Mu Shua is one of Li Tianqi's people. Because of this relationship, Mu Shua doesn't act presumptuously in our precious tool secret realm. Even senior brothers Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang have to be wary of Li Tianqi and turn a blind eye to Mu Shua's actions. The guard disciple kept talking about Mu Shua's background to Su Fang. He was also quite dissatisfied with Mu Shua. Panting, he said carefully, "When he came to find you, I found it strange. You're just an eternal star son. Why would he find trouble with you?" After this competition, some stars also came to our precious tool secret domain, but you offended him. You'll have a hard time in the future. With Mu Shua's status, he has at least 10,000 ways to deal with you. But I found it strange that he let you go when he could have. He heard the gist of it. In other words, behind Nangong Xiu was Li Tianqi. Mu Shua was also Li Tianqi's man, which was why he stood up for Nangong Xiu. It seemed like this constellation of 9 heavens was very similar to the lower realms. There were exceptional genius disciples within each sect, and they also possessed astonishing authority. For example, figures like Prince Shui, Xing Chongxing, and Huang Lingyao. Su Fang shook his head in front of the disciple in a daze. "I'm not sure either." He suddenly said that he would let me off, but he would still find trouble with me in the future. I reckon that I offended a genius from the star origin realm during the 10,000-year competition. Then you're in big trouble. Li Tianqi is famous for being protective of his own people. Years ago, when Mu Shua had just become a disciple, one of his senior apprentice brothers tried to suppress him. In the end, Li Tianqi went out and personally came to the precious tool secret realm and cut off that senior apprentice brother's path. At this moment, the guardian disciple looked at Su Fang with eyes full of sympathy. It was as if he could guess what would happen to Su Fang. Su Fang didn't mind. As for Li Tianqi, he naturally couldn't offend him. But if Mu Shu really wanted to deal with him, would he just wait for his death? Furthermore, he already had some ideas. He suddenly asked the disciple he had accepted, senior apprentice brother, Can I not wait for 100 years and then take the initiative to find senior apprentice brother to test me? 100 years is too long. Sometimes I want to go out for a walk. Of course you can. We don't have a fixed rule here. But did I hear wrong? Most disciples can't remember much even after 100 years. They even feel that time isn't enough. Why do you feel that time is too long? I'm just determined to cultivate diligently. Senior apprentice brother, I'll have to trouble you in the future. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I don't like that kind of person either. After chatting with the guardian disciple, Su Fong learned that this person was called Lu Feng. Lu Feng had been in the precious tool secret realm for 30,000 years. According to his self-evaluation 30,000 years ago, he was also a high-spirited eternal star child like Su Fong. Unfortunately, after coming here and constantly cultivating, he gradually realized that he didn't have the talent for refining. In the end, he was reduced to an ordinary disciple, eating and waiting for death. Fortunately, the precious tool secret realm never drove disciples away. It was good to be able to stay here for the rest of his life. At the very least, he had learned a lot of refining knowledge in the past 30,000 years. His knowledge was amazing. In the future, he could rely on this advantage to surpass many disciples. After chatting with Lu Feng for a long time, Lu Feng helped him to register. What an amazing great pregnant purple chi. I accidentally met Mu Shua this time. Otherwise, I would have started to absorb the great pregnant purple chi. I still have important things to do next. After leaving the inner cave and walking out of the stone door, he met Huang Liao again. Huang Liao sat at the side happily. He didn't feel like a cultivator at all. He was very carefree. Cultivators like him were similar to Lu Feng. When they understood their own abilities and talents, they would always give up some things. They seemed to be living a muddle-headed life, but in fact, it was because they understood themselves that they made some changes in their lives. Soon, they left the precious tool secret realm and returned to Huangfu Dojo. Huangfu Fei Dojo. In the immortal cloud, Su Fong stepped into the familiar exquisite mysterious realm. As soon as Huangfu Fei saw him, she said in a familiar cold tone, "You mean Li Tianqi?" Su Fong cupped his fist. "I accidentally defeated the genius of the Star Origin world, Nangong Xiu, in the Star Origin array. I guess this person is related to Li Tianqi. Then, the high-level disciples of the precious tool secret realm attacked me. If I didn't report miss in time, I'm afraid I would have been in another place today. Although I'm a cultivator of a higher level, I can't deal with a powerful disciple like Mu Shu." Huangfu Fei was calm and gentle like a willow leaf. "Then why are you looking for me? Do you want me to go and find Li Tianqi?" "That's not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" "I just want to know." At this moment, although Su Fong was a humble disciple, his eyes suddenly lit up. "If I make a scene and really offend Li Tianqi, for example, hurt his confidant, will Li Tianqi personally attack me?" "I understand." As soon as he finished speaking, Huangfu Fei turned sideways, revealing her sharp nose and chin. "If you really have the ability to compete with a disciple like Mu Shua and protect yourself and survive in the precious tool secret realm, that's your ability. If you offend Li Tianqi and he comes personally, I'll let you know. Don't worry, if he dares to openly attack you, I'll make him lose face and ensure your safety. Apart from Mu Shua, no one else knows about my relationship with Mississippi. I can only deal with things that I can without disturbing Mississippi. I'm also looking forward to it. If you can rely on yourself to survive in the precious tool secret realm and become a genius disciple, then I really didn't misjudge you. Bao Bao is a good example of you. He used to live under the wings of my mother and grandfather and became a hedonistic young master. But now, he's about to show his talent step by step." Su Fong bowed. "I understand. I'll take my leave now." Huangfu nodded and suddenly said coldly, "Right, you have to protect the ancient devil gold core in your body. Maybe in the future, I'll use it to find the ancient devil ruins. Ancient devil gold core. At this moment, Su Fong left the immortal fog and arrived at Huang Fu's side peak. He immediately flew up into the sky. If Huang Fu Fei knew that he had already merged with the ancient devil gold core, absorbed it, and obtained the secret of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, would she kill him? He also had to prepare a set of excuses to deal with the future. Regarding the whereabouts of the ancient devil gold core, he couldn't let her know that he had already obtained the secret of the ancient devil gold core. Inside the precious tool secret realm. Someone's here. Just as he flew into the valley, he suddenly felt two waves of true qi in the cave. One was red kites and the other was very strong. Huang Fu Ju. Su Fong used his full circle abilities to discover the other party's identity. He thought that Mu Shua had openly come here to cause trouble. When he entered the cave, he saw Red Kite standing there trembling. There were 5 finger marks on her face, and her right cheek was almost red and swollen. With just a glance, Su Fong could tell what was going on. Without looking at Huang Fu Ju's expression, he bowed politely. "May I know why senior brother is here waiting for me to return? From today onwards you can cultivate on your own. I have matters to attend to, so I won't be able to guide you on the path of artifact refinement." Huang Fu Ju suddenly said these words and walked down from the throne on the altar. This scene made him completely treat Su Fong as a stranger. When he passed by Su Fong, who was still bowing, he said coldly, "In the future, don't say that you know me in the treasure mystic realm." With a few steps, he disappeared into the cave's barrier. After he left, Su Fong was concerned about Red Kite. When he saw the 5 finger marks on Red Kite's face, he felt as if he had been slapped in his heart. "What happened?" Su Fong hurriedly asked. He suddenly barged in and asked where you were. I said that I didn't know, and Red Kite was still in a state of panic, and he could see that there were traces of blood at the base of her teeth. Su Fong was silent. This was clearly a slap to him. Moreover, he was the kind of person who would rather bear the consequences than to cause trouble to others. Red Kite said with grievance, he seemed to say that Master caused trouble and offended a certain senior brother. As for the rest, I don't know. Offended a certain senior brother? Isn't it Mu Shua? Feeling that he had lost his center of gravity, Su Fong staggered back and almost fainted. He grabbed the wall and rock, and his 5 fingers made creaking sound. When Red Kite saw this, she felt as if she had done something wrong. She hurriedly said, "This little grievance is nothing. Young master, you are not that kind of person's opponent, and you are a cave immortal. How can you compete with them? Offending such people is not good for you, young master. This has nothing to do with you. Moreover, slapping your face is the same as slapping me. Touching your head is trampling on my self-esteem. Also, this person is really a fence-sitter. Previously, I thought too highly of him and thought that he was a character. But now, it seems that he is just a spineless person in the treasure mystic realm." Starting today, Su Fong took back his hand and took out some medicinal pills, as well as a yin-yang immortal sky pill. He then walked back to his throne. "I want all those people who look down on me, all my enemies, to tremble, fear, and avoid me one day. It's also time for me to gain a foothold in the constellation of 9 heavens. Either I become a dazzling shooting star or— Young master, are you all right? I just suffered a little grievance." "It's nothing," said Red Kite. "It's fine. Go rest. Take this time to get used to it. Try to cultivate the first level of the minor phase art as soon as possible. Then I will pass on all the refining arts I have comprehended to you." "Yes." Red Kite silently retreated to the side of the formation. "It really is a case of kind people being bullied, and kind horses being ridden. You all treat me as a joke, treating me like an ant. But you don't know that today, as long as I absorb the primordial violet chi, my realm will rapidly rise. Sitting down, Su Fang began to meditate. He also began to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. His eyes once more regained the Overlord's aura from his minor world. Chapter 10-12. Su Fang thought that only he and the guard disciple Lu Feng knew that Mu Shuo was here to make things difficult for him. However, he did not expect that Huang Fuju and the other disciples had already received the news. They probably knew that Mu Shuo was not simple. He came from the star origin realm and was related to the special disciple Li Tianqi. Who would dare to offend him? Even Qin Kuei and Yuan Yifang had to give Li Tianqi face. No wonder Huang Fuju came to the cave early. Big Thunder first hit Red Kite and then cut ties with him. After cultivating in the cave for a few days, Su Fang told Red Kite not to leave the cave. When he left the cave, he met a few disciples from Huang Fu Training Hall. They treated him as a stranger and did not even look at him. After all, they had already accepted his immortal pills. Celestial Pool Peak. Su Fang chatted with Huang Liao for a while before continuing to the edge of the cave. After giving some benefits to the guard disciple Lu Feng, he entered. This time, he had to make the best use of his time and focus on completing his basic cultivation. He had to master all the things he needed to master in 100 years as soon as possible. Only then would he not be restrained and increase his strength. As for weapon refinement, he did not want to be a weapon refiner now. He came here to absorb the great pregnant purple gas. The guard disciple Lu Feng was still trustworthy. After taking his pills, he would more or less pay attention to the movements outside. Even when someone like Mu Shuo came looking for trouble, he had also secretly informed him. After using the Heavenly Devil Disintegration Seal, he actually separated 100 young immortals and surrounded the entire cave. This was equivalent to 100 disciples cultivating at the same time. Su Fang's main body entered the depths again and found tens of thousands of secret manuals. Each of them recorded all kinds of weapon refinement materials, immortal fires, true fires, and even some information about deviant fire seed. His main body separated dozens of young immortals and began to absorb the secret manual's knowledge. Outside, there were 100 young immortals recording all kinds of materials. His main body sat cross-legged in a corner and slightly used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. He still had to sense the movements around him. After confirming that everything was normal, he began to sense the great pregnant purple gas inside the celestial pool peak. Indeed, there was a shocking amount of great pregnant purple gas in the outer cave. It was hidden in the spirit qi, in the vicinity of various materials, or in the rocks. After countless years, the great pregnant purple gas had already fused into countless corners of the celestial pool peak. Although there wasn't as much great pregnant violet qi as there was in the inner cavern, it was still the most abundant great pregnant violet qi Su Fang had ever encountered. After releasing the great pregnant purple gas, he used 9 heavenly star minor art to absorb the spirit qi into his right arm and body. But in reality, he was activating his purple qi dharma spirit to absorb the mysterious great pregnant purple qi within the spirit qi. Not long after, Law suddenly said, "The primordial violet qi is a part of the violet qi. Violet qi represents luck, heavenly luck, and the fate of the Grand Tao. No one in this world can control it. If you can control it and cultivate it, your karmic luck will be unrivaled. You'll be protected by the heavenly Taos." Is it that magical? It's even more magical than that. No one knows what level you will reach after absorbing the great pregnant purple gas. It's not a magic treasure, it's a purple gas spirit, a spirit treasure born from heaven and earth. Compared to that, I want to see how you will rise up in this treasure secret realm. You are being stepped on by others all the time, living like walking on thin ice. I look forward to the day you rise up. I will work hard. Luo's sudden mention of this topic touched Su Fang's sore spot. for now, he was just an ordinary disciple that was being stepped on by others. Huang Fu Fei, Huang Fu Yunhai, Huang Fu Duan, Mu Shua, Huang Fu Ju Li Tianqi. He was really excited. He quickly absorbed the rare primordial violet qi in the cave. At the same time, the magic power in his divine aperture was surging. Magic power was the source of the Yang Immortals' magic power. At this moment, he had more than 100 Yang Immortals seize the time to memorize all the secret manuals and materials in the cave. Ordinary people would need 100 years to memorize some of the things here. But Luo Luo had to memorize all the materials here in a short time. Bzzz, time continued to pass. In his right arm, the purple gas Dharma spirit that had fused with his meridians was still vibrating at the beginning. But now it was roaring as if it was going to struggle out of his meridians. This was because the purple gas Dharma spirit had devoured a large amount of great pregnant purple gas and was becoming more mysterious. It was also fusing with more flesh and meridians in his right arm. In addition, it was also absorbing the power of the world around him, pouring it into the heavenly abode and world fragments. His strength was growing stronger step by step. The treasure secret realm, Heavenly Pool Peak, was his cultivation paradise. After the constellation of 9 heavens becomes stronger, I can go to the immortal Ao Great World to find the third part of the purple gas Dharma spirit. When the 3 Dharma spirits fuse together, I will be able to stand firm in the great world. Luo had this thought in his mind. It gave him unlimited motivation to cultivate step by step and become stronger. After the purple gas Dharma spirit absorbed the great pregnant purple gas, it revealed a mysterious power that allowed Su Fang to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth faster. He did not expect the purple gas Dharma spirit to be so extraordinary. This allowed Su Fang's cultivation speed to increase continuously, reaching a height that he had never reached before. Oh no, I am about to break through. Luo suddenly opened his eyes from cultivation. He was pleasantly surprised as he suppressed the true qi in his body. Fortunately, there are 14 slaves in the void dust cauldron. I am using the snake spirit immortal swallowing cauldron to continuously refine yin-yang immortal sky pills for junior commander to consume. Otherwise, I would not have enough immortal essence pills. The void dust cauldron is indeed a good treasure. After absorbing the Yang Immortal into his divine aperture's dermic power world, Su Fang left the cave. Lu Feng sat lazily at the side, cultivating the extreme Dao nebula art. This cultivation technique was truly extraordinary. Unfortunately, with Su Fang's grotto immortal cultivation, he was still unable to cultivate this high-grade divine ability. This was not a low-grade or mid-grade divine ability. Even a heavenly immortal would not be able to cultivate the extreme Dao nebula art after crossing the 7-star killing sword array, flying star killing sword, and celestial essence void fist. Lu Feng told Su Fang to go back without worry. He would record the time and the general process of Su Fang's cultivation. There were benefits to bribing high-level disciples. After returning to the cave abode in the valley, Su Fang began to cast an array formation, sealing the surroundings tightly. Then, he swallowed mid-grade immortal essence pills, biochemical pills, and a spirit-strengthening essence condensing pill. Next was the impact. Again and again, the impact was like 10,000 horses galloping. In order to prevent anyone from noticing his breakthrough aura, Su Fang even deliberately cast a seal on the cave where the red kite was. Chi. A wave of tribulation aura came as he wished. After the explosion, Su Fang's body trembled shockingly. The earth tribulation fire also enveloped and burned, almost burning the layers of array formation seals into pieces. The earth tribulation fire burned his flesh, blood, meridians, bones, and internal organs. Under the burning state, his physical body also began to welcome the power of advancement. The impurities in the placenta were constantly seeping out. Su Fang did not need to do anything now. He just let the power of advancement attack his physical body. Over time, the changes in his body were obvious. His meridians and bones were growing larger, and his physical body was constantly deepening. Even his threads were emitting the earth tribulation fire. The purple chi dharma spirit has indeed fused with another meridian. In the past, it only fused with one meridian in the depths of my right arm. But now, by absorbing the great pregnant purple chi, the purple chi dharma spirit is constantly fusing with more meridians in my right arm. As long as I am in this treasure arcane realm, the purple chi dharma spirit can finally fuse to an astonishing extent. Maybe when the time comes, I can directly activate the purple chi dharma spirit to sense the third part of the purple chi dharma spirit. He was also controlling and adapting to the changes in his body. At this time, the first thing he cared about was the purple chi dharma spirit. Then, there were other places. He found the heavenly cave of the golden core of origin. At this time, under the impact of the power of advancement, it had almost turned into a vortex. It was shattering and twisting, as if it was going to crush the golden core of origin. The heavenly cave was something that every cave immortal disciple had to cultivate every time they broke through. Fortunately, Su Fang had lost his golden core long ago, so his golden core of origin didn't really care. It was naturally best to have such a heavenly cave, as it could help the body cultivate. But if he didn't have it, it wouldn't affect Su Fang too much. At this time, in the divine aperture, the dermic power sea was boiling. The more the dermic power moved, the more it meant that the young immortal was crazily transforming and absorbing energy. Soon after the advancement, Su Fang checked his golden core of origin, dantian, flesh membrane, and divine aperture. He had smoothly stepped into the 4 Dao realm from the 3 Dao realm. Even Su Fang didn't think that it would be so easy to break through to the 4 Dao realm. At this time, Luo said faintly, "There are many reasons why you broke through so quickly. For example, you don't have a golden core, you're a void immortal, you're a complete realm immortal, and you have 2 real bodies. You also have the most mysterious yang qi in the world, a fragment of the world, and a divine weapon. You have too many treasures. Your body is already a huge treasure, which is why your breakthrough is so shocking." My body is a treasure. Su Fang found it unbelievable. True body. Look at the 9 Heaven Star Palace. How many blood transformation real bodies can there be? None of them can even have a Black Lotus real body. Then there's the world fragment. Although many experts have world fragments, you're the first in the cave immortal realm. Moreover, your world fragment is very different. You don't have a gold core and you're walking on the path of cultivation of a void cultivator. Is there a second person like you in the Star Palace? You're cultivating the Tao of Destiny. Not to mention the Star Palace, you won't be able to find a second person like you in the Star Palace. There's no such thing as a divine weapon. Su Fang muttered, "Yes, I didn't even think about it. I already have a huge treasure." Law's voice was very certain. "This is your potential, this is why you can go from an ordinary immortal to a cave immortal in just a few hundred years, and then step by step to a higher realm. Therefore, you have to make good use of your treasures. I am looking forward to you cultivating the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, then your physical body will be even more amazing." Yellow Spring Blood Sea. Thinking about the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor's peerless physical sacred art, Su Fang was very curious. Moreover, it wasn't a devil path technique, but a physical sacred art. After the breakthrough, his body would be extremely empty. As for other things, he didn't have to worry. He was just an ordinary disciple who had just stepped into the treasure's secret realm. Unless it was Mu Shuo, who was related to Nangong Xiao. He swallowed immortal essence pills one by one, and then added a spirit-strengthening pill. As for his yin-yang immortal sky pill, it was still a low-grade pill. Swallowing it wouldn't be of much use at the moment. It was better to give it to Junior Commander Lu Xiong and the other demon immortals. With the pill, he released the fragment of the world to absorb the power of the world. Su Fang's body began to surge with energy again. The fragment of the world fused with his body very slowly. He didn't feel much change. Cultivating the fragment of the world was far from easy. Chapter 10:13. Su Fang had roughly reached the 4-Dao Grotto Immortal Realm, so he had to go to the extreme Heaven Pool Peak to complete his 100-year cultivation mission. When he arrived at the extreme Heaven Pool Peak, he saw a dozen disciples chatting outside the gate. When they saw Su Fang, they also casually chatted with him. Their faces were cold. But he inadvertently heard a familiar name. Monk Shangde. These disciples were so free today. On one hand, they were watching Qingkue refine the Qingyuan cauldron. They were tired and bitter, so they came out to take a breather. He didn't expect their topic to be related to the Huangze astral plane. From them, he learned that the monk Shangde he knew was being chased by many experts in the Huangze astral plane. Occasionally, treasures would appear in the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. Unfortunately, those treasures would disappear into the depths of the wasteland. No one had ever obtained them. There were also many people who went to the Silent Flame Plains to fight for the Heavenlight Flame. Of course, the biggest topic was the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's remnant Dao field. It turned out that since a long time ago, some items related to the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor kept appearing in the wasteland. There were rumors that the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's inheritance Dao field was buried in the Huangze astral plane. This was also the reason why Monk Shangde was being chased by countless people, who told him to obtain the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's bottle. It was even said that the bottle contained the secret of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Dao field. Even the Star Palace sent out genius disciples and true higher-ups to the Huangze astral plane to search for treasures. But in reality, it was to find the secret of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Dao field. Who was the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor? Countless years ago, he was the peerless immortal emperor who created the Yellow Springs immortal world. He was at the peak of the world. His Dao field, his cultivation technique, and his inheritance naturally had to pass through the constellation of 9 heavens. Wasn't the constellation of 9 heavens tempted? Weren't their powerful disciples tempted? This was natural. As a first-rate power, the constellation of 9 heavens naturally had to be stronger and have a rich foundation. Therefore, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Dao field was in existence with a huge attraction. I have to go to the Huangze astral plane as soon as possible. The Heavenlight Flame is mine. After listening for a while, Su Fang stepped into the Celestial Lake Peak with Huang Liao's permission. Who would have thought that as soon as he stepped in, he would see the scorching hot corridor in the depths of the cavern. Hundreds of disciples were being led by Mu Shua and a few other disciples to tour the interior of the cavern. When Mu Shua saw Su Fang, his eyes were filled with disdain. These are the eternal star children who have entered the celestial pole pool peak. Those disciples were all at the heavenly immortal realm. None of them were at the cave immortal realm. Coupled with the tokens and their expressions, one could see their shock towards the interior of the celestial pool peak. These people must have successfully become the disciples of the Wangu star son from the 10,000-year competition. Moreover, there were also some disciples from Huangfu Dojo. With a glance, Su Fang suddenly saw a few pairs of eyes that were filled with hostility. With a glance, he saw a group of disciples who were standing very close to Mu Shua. They were all disciples from the star origin realm, and there were a few heaven immortal disciples among them. Their eyes were filled with hostility. Su Fang smiled inwardly. I reckon these people are related to Nangong Xiu. They are all from the star origin realm, so they must know about me and Nangong Xiu. My days in the treasure item secret realm will be even more difficult. These disciples will definitely cause trouble for me in the future. With my current status and strength, I'm not their match. If I want to truly establish myself in the treasure item secret realm, there's only one way. Once I'm strong enough, I'll catch them off guard. With a chill in his heart, he immediately turned and strode towards the cavern on the left. This time, our secret realm has taken in hundreds of disciples. That's not a small number. I see that there are many disciples from the star origin realm, and Mu Shua is in charge. You have to be careful. In front of the cavern's formation, Lu Feng chatted with him for a while before patting his shoulder. He had planned to enter the cavern to continue cultivating, but who would have thought that Lu Feng immediately sent news that Mu Shua had brought a few hundred disciples over. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. They had to press on step by step. Su Feng pretended that he didn't know. He picked up the secret book and began to read the large amount of information on it. Soon, Mu Shua brought a few hundred disciples in. In front of these disciples, he spoke frankly with assurance. Finally, he came to Su Feng. He arrogantly shouted at the hundreds of disciples, "In the future, all of you should remember that all the chores here will be handled by this Huang Fu Shaoing. You only need to cultivate. This person has openly contradicted senior brother, so he will be punished." After saying that, he deliberately raised his voice. "Huang Fu Shaoing, why aren't you coming over? Don't you know that ordinary disciples have to bow when they see high-level disciples?" Su Feng had no choice but to endure it for now. In front of countless mocking disciples, he bowed in front of Mu Shua and the other high-level disciples. Most of the disciples laughed out loud, and some even openly said, "I thought that the first disciple to become the Eternal Star Sun would be very powerful and extraordinary. Of course he's extraordinary. Since he came here, he had to start from the basics, doing chores like ordinary disciples." In front of Su Feng, the disciples openly mocked and ridiculed him. Mu Shua led the disciples to humiliate Su Feng in public before finally leaving the cave. Su Feng was left alone in peace. He didn't have any emotional fluctuations because he was brewing a huge wave of backlash. Once it exploded, Mu Shua would be in trouble. Sometimes, lowering one's status was also a kind of cultivation. After breaking through to the cave immortal Fordao realm, Su Feng's Yang Immortal was twice as powerful. This time, he might as well go all out. He used the true Yang Immortal divine ability and separated thousands of Yang Immortals. Under his control, some of them flipped through the secret books, while most of them recorded all kinds of things outside. This was the first time he used the Yang Immortal divine ability with all his strength since he came to Star Palace. This time, Su Feng stayed for a few years and used all his strength to activate thousands of Yang Immortals. He remembered all the things clearly and didn't let anything go. Every secret book was also memorized by the Yang Immortals and engraved in the depths of their memories. It took others 100 years to memorize a part of it, but he only needed a few years to use the Yang Immortal divine ability. After leaving the cave, Su Feng took out an upper-grade Dao weapon and secretly gave it to Lu Feng. When Lu Feng saw that it was an upper-grade Dao weapon, his eyes lit up. He was in a good mood. Su Feng asked, "Senior brother Lu, can I leave the treasured artifact mystic realm for a long time in 100 years? Of course you can, but you have to record it on your record token. Although there aren't many requirements for new disciples, if you don't pass the test, you'll end up miserable. It's not a problem to test me, but I'll have to trouble you to keep an eye on the record token. I guess I'll have to go to Huang Fu Training Hall for a while, so I'll have to trouble you. Since you've taken out a high-grade Dao artifact, I have to do this for you. Don't worry. The main thing is that senior brother Qing Kuei is doing his best to refine the Azure Origin Cauldron. Most of the upper echelon disciples are focused on this matter. Even Mu Shua has to spend a long time inside watching the artifact being refined. Thank you, senior brother." Su Feng's heart bled when he gave out an upper-grade Dao weapon. But fortunately, he could ask Lu Feng to give him special treatment. After returning to the cave abode in the valley, Su Fang began to cultivate and strive to reach the normal state of the Four Dao Cave Immortal Realm. Unexpectedly, Huang Fu Xiao Xiao secretly sent him a thought, asking him to go to Huang Fu Training Hall. Su Fang tidied up and thought deeply. He asked the red kite to stay in the cave abode for a few years and not take a step out. Young master, if you're going to the Huang Zhe astral realm, I want to go too. It turned out that he had decided to go to the Huang Zhe astral realm and had made all the arrangements before leaving. But the red kite insisted on dragging him to the Huang Zhe astral realm. It's not that I don't want to take you, but I'm still a cave immortal. I don't have the strength to protect you. I promise you, when I become stronger in the future, I'll take you with me whenever I go out. I don't feel at ease letting you stay here, but it's better than going to the dangerous wasteland with me. It's settled. Su Fang would not be entangled with a woman. He forced the red kite to stay in the cave abode and set up more arrays. Then, he left the cave abode. Huang Fu Training Hall. As soon as he arrived at the square, he immediately attracted the attention of many disciples. When he came to the front of the main hall, even the disciples guarding the hall were very polite when they saw him, because he was now an inner disciple of the training hall. Moreover, he could finally enter the palace openly. Most of the disciples looked at him politely. Senior brother. After entering a side hall, Su Fang immediately bowed to Huang Fu Xiao Xiao. Huang Fu Xiao Xiao asked him to sit down. In fact, she did not ask him to come here for anything important. She just wanted to ask him about the cultivation problems in the treasure mystic realm. Of course, Su Fang could not tell her about Mu Shuo. This was a private matter. In front of Huang Fu Xiao Xiao, he naturally said that everything was fine. Huang Fu Xiao Xiao also represented Qiu Ranjing to ask Su Fang about the recent cultivation situation. As a member of the Huang Fu Training Hall, Su Fang had to come back from time to time. Inadvertently, Su Fang also asked about Huang Fu Fei. In the end, he found out that she was not in the training hall. She said that she had gone out to train. As for baby Huang Fu, she was naturally cultivating in the vast ancient mystic realm. The vast ancient mystic realm was not the treasure mystic realm. In all aspects, it was 100 times stricter than the treasure mystic realm. It seemed that after becoming the eternal star sun, he felt like he was being exiled. In fact, this was true cultivation. Moreover, it was not easy to be a blacksmith. It took countless years of accumulation and deep cultivation to become a blacksmith master. Since Huang Fu Fei was not in the training hall and the people in the celestial pool peak were paying attention to Qing Kuei refining the Qingyuan cauldron, it was the best opportunity for him to leave the training hall and sneak into the Huang Zhe astral. Without further ado, he bade farewell to Huang Fu Xiao Xiao and went straight to the formation outside the training hall. With his current speed, he flew out of the training hall outside the Star Palace very quickly. Once again, he came to the vast land of the ruins. After a while, he finally left the huge floating remains. When he was far away, even his back disappeared into the depths of the void. Suddenly, 2 disciples flew out from the remains behind. It was a male disciple who appeared with Red Kite. However, the man's gaze was dull, and he did not seem to have any consciousness. On the other hand, Red Kite's eyes were shining with a faint dark red halo. They came to the depths and entered the star fog. There were faint nebulas around them. Red Kite suddenly looked at the male disciple. She grabbed his head with her palm and crushed it. Then, a gust of genuine fire swept out. In less than 3 breaths, the man's corpse was burned into black ashes. What a powerful genuine fire! A Star Palace disciple did not even have a corpse left behind in an instant. From now on, I don't have to step into the Star Palace anymore. Under Red Kite's ordinary appearance, there was a natural calmness and calmness. It was as though she was living in the darkness. She looked at the deep space where Su Fang had disappeared. Mister's order is for me to suppress this person and obtain the palace feather from him. Today is finally my chance. Then, as Red Kite formed a seal, her speed was as fast as when she was in the training hall. In the blink of an eye, she went to the depths of the nebula where Su Fong had disappeared. Chapter 10:14. In the void where a large amount of star fog and nebulas intertwined, Su Fong was speeding up without restraint. He was leaving the outer realm where the constellation of 9 heavens was. The speed of the 4 Tao of cave immortals is extraordinary. It's dozens of times faster than when I was a spirit immortal. All kinds of heaven and earth shackles are not a problem. It will take me at most 5 years to reach the desolate swamp astral realm from here. Su Fong stepped on his flying sword and felt that he had become a cave immortal. He came to the void of the great world as a cave immortal. He was like a different person compared to when he was a spirit immortal. He could finally resist the shackles of heaven and earth's divine might. He looked back. When I'm far away from the constellation of 9 heavens, I'll use the feather fan. My speed will double again. Suddenly, a movement surged from the depths of his mind. Some mysterious destiny Tao runes actually flashed around his divine aperture or in the dermic powers see inside. The heavenly secret life shrinking technique hasn't worked for a long time. Someone is secretly sensing my aura. Who is it? Is it someone from the Huangfu sect, Musha, or Nangong Xiu? Su Fong quickly sensed something from the destiny Tao runes. His perfected ability surged behind him. Indeed, there was an aura that was activating the heavenly secret life shrinking technique in his body, causing the destiny Tao runes to surge. Who was it? Not only was it sensing his aura, but it also appeared behind him. No matter who it was, it meant that someone was following him. He had encountered too many such situations. In his calm state, Su Fong maintained his speed. He didn't want to activate the feather fan. He first found a place to see who was following him. Of course, it would be best if he could get rid of them. If the other party was very powerful and launched a sudden sneak attack, he would be in danger if he wasn't prepared. After a long stalemate, he finally entered a large nebula. As soon as Su Fong entered, he hurriedly released the 14 slaves and let them hide in the nebula. He went to a shattered object in the nebula and sat down. He seemed to be resting, but in fact, he was already activating the Heartless Sword spy with the 14 slave. In a short while, his perfected ability locked onto an aura and arrived inside the nebula. In the next second, when Su Fong wanted to see who it was, that figure actually locked onto his position and pounced out with a large domain, directly sweeping towards him at a speed as fast as a flood. They are experts. With such a perceptive power, the speed at which he released his domain, and the fact that he was not afraid of the shackles in the nebula, this person was not a cave immortal. He was probably a high-level heavenly immortal expert. Thinking of this, Su Fong hurriedly stepped on the feather fan. This kind of ambush could be used to deal with cave immortals or ordinary experts in the celestial immortal realm. But against such an enemy, he had no confidence. He had to escape from the domain nebula first. After sucking the 14 slaves into his palm, Zhang Xian stepped onto the feather fan and looked behind him. The terrifying domain was closing in on him, not giving him the slightest chance at all. Fortunately, the feather fan's speed was astonishing. The moment the domain came, it turned into a meteor-like figure. Its speed was at least above the cave immortal realm, reaching the heaven immortal realm. In an instant, it shuttled back and forth in front of the domain's divine might. That was close. Looking behind him, the godly might of the domain was gone, replaced by a mysterious nebula. Su Fong didn't think too much about it. He focused on escaping. He had the feather fan, so he didn't need to consume much of his genuine qi. He could drive the feather fan all the way to the desolate swamp spiritual world. No matter how powerful a heavenly immortal realm expert was, he couldn't fly in the void for a long time. Chi-Chi, just as Su Fang was about to fly out of the nebula, under the sensing range of his great fulfillment realm, a figure passed by him from behind in a strange trajectory that was a few times faster than him. He could almost see the figure passing by him and appearing in front of him in an instant. He hurriedly stopped the feather fan. He almost lost his balance and fell. He held his breath. It was as if he was surrounded by an abyss of coldness. Because the other party had such speed, he wasn't a heavenly immortal realm cultivator. He released his aura and looked ahead. A black figure gradually floated in the nebula. The surrounding nebula suddenly broke apart, and the figure gradually approached. Moreover, it wasn't the genuine Chi of the Constellation Palace. This person wasn't a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. Su Fang was so shocked that he hurriedly regained his senses. He activated his great fulfillment realm ability, but the moment he saw through the nebula, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. The hair on his skin stood on end, and cold sweat instantly flowed down his face. Under his great fulfillment realm vision, he saw a familiar face. It was an average-sized, thin, plain-clothed lady. It was Red Kite, who was supposed to be cultivating in his cave dwelling. Su Fang rubbed his eyes suspiciously. He took a closer look. Indeed, it was Red Kite. Her appearance, figure, and even the way she dressed didn't change at all. The only difference was that her eyes were filled with a faint red luster. Seeing this luster, Su Fang suddenly thought of the first time he saw Red Kite. There was also a strange look in her eyes. However, it was just a flash, and he didn't look at it in detail. "I'm very surprised. With your 4th path cave immortal realm cultivation, how could you discover me?" The nebula kept rolling to the sides, and Red Kite walked over clearly. She looked at Su Fang with surprise. "I've been following you all this time. I know that you're a person of a higher level. Currently, you have the power of a heavenly immortal. However, it's impossible for you to discover that I've been following you from behind. Even if your young immortal is extraordinary, it shouldn't be." At this moment, the master and servant looked at each other in the vast nebula world in the void. Both of their eyes were more or less shocked and unfamiliar. It was especially so for Su Fang. He never thought that a servant, a female servant who was bullied, would have such power. Why did she make him feel so powerless before? Why did she suddenly change into such an unfathomable expert? Su Fang stepped on the feather fan and was in the state of vital energy explosion. Seeing Red Kite getting closer, he asked in surprise, "Red Kite, who are you? Why are you deliberately approaching me?" "I'm me. I'm not lying to you. I'm Red Kite. However, I'm not a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. The reason why I'm approaching you is because of something on your body. Of course, it's also to get rid of you," Red Kite said without any expression. "You're not a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. You're not someone that some powerful disciple arranged to be by my side." Out of Su Fang's expectations, he thought for a moment and said, "I haven't been in the outside world for long. I've offended some people, but it's impossible for them to find the constellation of 9 heavens. The only possibility is that you followed me to the constellation of 9 heavens when I went to the desolate swamp spirit world. You're really as smart as you were in the Star Palace. I've been in the Star Palace for dozens of years and secretly saw that you were an ordinary disciple. However, you were able to mediate in that training ground and become stronger step by step. You're capable and you can think so clearly in such a short time. I'll tell you straight. I'm here for the boundless secular palace's feather on your body." "The boundless secular palace's feather. Don't tell me that you don't have it. Because you fused with the feather in the Star Palace, my master already sensed it and found the constellation of 9 heavens. This can't be wrong. All right. That thing is indeed on my body." Seeing this scene, Red Kite was very sure that he had the boundless secular palace's feather on his body. It wouldn't do to play dumb at this time. He might as well just answer directly. Red Kite stretched out his hand coldly. Take it out and come back with me. Seeing that you're also a cultivator who has not had it easy, I won't kill you now. I'll bring you back to the young master for punishment. If the young master doesn't kill you, then you can live. Let me ask, I've treated you well. Su Fong trembled, feeling that death was approaching. Red Kite suddenly emitted a murderous aura. You're also a person with experience. Don't say such boring things. I came here to deal with you. Everything you saw of me in the Star Palace was just a way for me to gain your sympathy and get close to you. You've treated me well. A cave immortal like you doesn't have the right to say such things in front of me. Su Fong asked again, Who's the young master behind you? There's no harm in telling you. He's the young master of a big clan in the great world. People call him the young master of the Divine Palace. He's also a well-known figure in the great world. I got the palace feather by accident in the Huangzi astral world. What does it have to do with the young master of the Divine Palace? Why did he come here to take my life? There's no harm in telling you. The Divine Palace clan has a lot to do with the former boundless Red World Palace. The ancestor of the Divine Palace clan was once an elder of the boundless Red World Palace. After the boundless Red World Palace disappeared, he gradually established the Divine Palace clan in the Great World and became a big clan. For so many years, the Divine Palace clan has never given up collecting the palace feather left behind by the Eternal Red World Palace. They themselves obtained a palace feather and kept passing it down. After that, they've been looking for the other two palace feather. In some ways, the palace feather originally belonged to the Divine Palace clan. Another Divine Palace clan popped up. Hearing Red Kite mention all this, Su Fong immediately knew the background of her and the young master of the Divine Palace. He would never have thought that a clan would be related to the former boundless Red World Palace. Su Fong secretly asked Luo if he knew about the Divine Palace clan. Luo said he didn't. How could he know a former elder? The former boundless Red World Palace was incomparably huge. How many elders did it have? However, Luo also said that if the ancestor of the Divine Palace clan was really an elder and could obtain the inheritance of the palace feather, then he was indeed an elder of the former boundless Red World Palace. Do you want to give it to me yourself, or do you want me to do it? Red Kite threatened. Since the palace feather met me, it means that we are fated to meet. Red Kite, you're a woman. I can feel that you're not easy. Why can't you take a step back and let me go? Let you go? Do you know that the young master of the Divine Palace will let me go? Then I'll take another step back. I'm no match for an expert like you, but I want to live. I'll give you the palace feather of the boundless Red World Palace, but please let me go. Give it to me first. How can I believe you? You can choose not to believe me, but you have to give it to me. You're a smart person. I can tell you clearly that even if you're in the heavenly immortal realm, you're no match for me. Besides, I've already grasped most of your abilities. I couldn't deal with you in the Star Palace because of that powerful woman, Huang Fu Fei. But once you're in the outside world, you can't escape my control. Red Kite's voice was as cold as ice. Moreover, the young master of the Divine Palace has already obtained 2 palace feather. He's only missing your piece. He's going to obtain the inheritance of the boundless Red World Palace and become an overlord in the future. Think about it, how could he let you go? He only got the inheritance after fusing 3 palace feather. Not only is the young master of the Divine Palace powerful, but the Divine Palace clan is also very powerful after so many years. Whoosh! After Su Fong heard this, he suddenly saw a silver feather. It was the palace feather of the boundless Red World Palace. He immediately looked at the bottomless abyss below him. I still don't believe you. I can give up the palace feather. There are so many fortuitous encounters and inheritances in the world. I believe I'll get better ones. As for the palace feather, I'll leave it to the young master of the divine palace. But I can't stand that person trying to kill me. One day, I'll let you see that day. I'll step on the palace feather. Red Kite's gaze was attracted by the palace feather. That's because you don't know how powerful the young master of the divine palace is in the great immortal realm. You're just an ordinary disciple. How can you compete with the sun and moon? Chapter 10:15. Su Fong held the palace feather in his hand and stared at the red kite in front of him, concentrating all his strength on his arm. Facing the other party's pressure, he suddenly asked, "Then tell me how powerful the Divine Palace young master of the Divine Palace family is." The Divine Palace young master's name is Gong Yu. It is said that when he was born, there was a ray of light in the Divine Palace family that entered his body. He was blessed by the heavens from birth. The young master condensed his immortal spirit at the age of 3, opened his divine aperture at the age of 5, and left his immortal body at the age of 10. His strength and aptitude far exceed his peers by 10 times. Yes, he is also a cross-realm master. In the Divine Palace family there are countless family disputes. Many want to destroy the young master's strong enemies. The young master became famous when he was young. He helped his father eliminate the dissident. Later, when the family was lonely and almost destroyed, he turned the situation around by himself. Today, the Divine Palace family is under the young master's control. In the great immortal world, he is known as the 10 Great Young Masters. The young master comprehended the peerless heart technique of the former boundless secular palace from the remnants of ancient scrolls. He traveled the world at a young age, and his footprints can be found everywhere. He became one of the 10 Great Young Masters, famous in the world and respected by everyone. At this point, the red kite's calm face was full of expectations for the Divine Palace young master. Now you know how extraordinary my young master is. His goal is to rebuild the boundless secular palace, and even surpass the great forces of the boundless secular palace. These are all existences that ants like you don't even dare to think about. The young master's ambition is far beyond the heavens. The young master of the Divine Palace, Gong Yu, is indeed a proud son of heaven. After listening quietly, he could tell from the other party's tone that these words came from the heart. The young master of the Divine Palace, Gong Yu. Su Fong looked at the palace feather in his hand again. Suddenly, many emotions rose in his heart, but most of them was helplessness. He thought of the time when Prince Shui stripped him of his magic treasures at the Xianjia Gate. He came to the great immortal world, entered the constellation of 9 heavens, and was forcibly taken away by Huang Fu Yunhai. He had obtained the palace feather of the boundless secular palace through a fortuitous encounter. He did not expect that after the fusion, it would still become someone's possession. It happened again and again. Although the boundless Red World Palace was a powerful force in ancient times, it was not the most powerful force in this vast macro world. It declined after its peak, and that was the reason why it was destroyed. If it was really an immortal force, it would still be alive today. You are now on the path of cultivation of purple qi. With purple qi, your fate will be stronger and more prosperous than anyone else's. You will have great luck, and even the people around you will be affected by your luck. I'm just a little unwilling. These words made Su Fong feel a little better, but he still could not swallow his anger. This is cultivation. How can you grow without these tribulations? I've seen many experts, but none of them had a smooth life. Besides, I think the fortuitous encounter from the ancient devil's gold core is already beyond the boundless secular palace. You'd better focus on getting the netherworld golden body of the netherworld devil emperor. Fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. Don't worry about the gains and losses in front of you. Okay. Su Fong suddenly grasped the palace feather in his hand. Why? Are you still hesitating or stalling for time? The red kite floating in front of him suddenly condensed its qi. Su Fang's eyes were full of tenacity. I'll give you the palace feather, but I will never go with you to see the young master of the divine palace. I have to live well, even if I'm just an ant. It's not up to you. It's not up to me, Red Kite. Look at the void turbulence below. That's the legendary void abyss. Your strength and speed are countless times faster than mine, but are you 100% sure that you can catch up with the palace feather when I throw it down there? What are you thinking? I don't want to do anything. I just want to save my life. I'll give you the palace feather. You came for the palace feather. In order to save my life, I have to do everything I can to protect myself. So I want to see if you're faster, or if the palace feather will fall into the depths of the void first. You're playing with fire. The Red Kite, who had always been cold, suddenly became nervous. If the palace feather really falls into the abyss, the young master will try his best to get it back. But you'll definitely die. Plus, no one knows about the relationship between the divine palace and the boundless secular palace. I'll take you back just to let you see the young master. He won't necessarily kill you. Not necessarily, not necessarily. Red Kite, remember this. What belongs to Su Fang will always be mine. I'll give the palace feather to the young master of the divine palace, Gong Yu, for the time being. But you'll see the day when I step on his head and take it back. You have to be fast. Go. Su Fang's eyebrows suddenly became as sharp as swords, and a palm force from his right hand pressed onto the palace feather. No. The Red Kite flew towards Su Fang. Its speed was indeed astonishing. In the next second it would probably grab Su Fang's neck. But Su Fang hit the palace feather with the back of his hand, unexpectedly sending it into the bottomless void turbulence at the bottom left. The Red Kite hurriedly changed its direction halfway. Whoosh! At the same time, Su Fang, who was standing on the feather fan, flew into the depths of the void turbulence at the fastest speed. And at the same time, he also activated the life-shrinking technique to completely conceal his aura. He didn't look at the Red Kite and the palace feather. He was confident that the Red Kite wouldn't be able to catch up to the palace feather in the turbulence within 10 breaths. In 10 breaths, he could already conceal his aura and enter the boundless divine abyss void. Flying towards a large area of nebulas and air currents, the feather fan's speed was extraordinarily fast. Su Fang's speed was completely at the heavenly immortal realm. Although this speed wasn't as fast as the Red Kite, in this void turbulence, the Red Kite couldn't sense his aura. How could she accurately catch up to him in such a vast void turbulence? He flew continuously for several days. Only when Su Fang was sure that the Red Kite wouldn't be able to catch up to him in this direction did he suppress his speed. His next target was the heavenly earth desolate city. In a certain void turbulence, the Red Kite's plain clothes were like a ball of flame that swept over from the void turbulence. In front of her was a boundless void turbulence. How is this possible? I have clearly collected his aura all these years by his side. How could his aura suddenly disappear? The boundless void turbulence made the Red Kite feel helpless. After staying by his side for several decades, I thought that I had completely controlled him. I didn't expect that in the end there was still something that I didn't understand. And when I used my ability to confuse his mind and control his thoughts, this person actually noticed something. This is unbelievable. If I can't control his thoughts, I can't use force. As she stretched out her hand, a silver palace feather appeared. The palace feather of the boundless secular world palace. Fortunately, I found the palace feather in that turbulence. Otherwise, how could I return to young master's side? With young master's temper, he would definitely kill me. She formed another Dharma seal. Soon, another aura reverberated around her. She looked at the void turbulence around her, which was full of nebulas and turbulence. Huangfu Xiaoying, no, Su Fang, since you were able to escape, it seems that the heavens deliberately left you alive. It can be considered as a little compensation for all these years. But I don't believe that one day you will grow to the same height as young master. Whoosh! She took a deep look in the other direction, and then disappeared into the nebula. A few years later, in the heavenly earth desolate city, the feather fan disappeared under the feet of Su Fang, who was filled with the cold and lonely starry sky aura. It turned into a flying sword and flew into the heavenly earth desolate city. Su Fang originally wanted to go directly to the Huangze astral realm, but he also wanted to collect information here first. He also transformed into a fiendish Tao cultivator. He was very familiar with the heavenly earth desolate city. The last time he stayed here with baby Huangfu for a long time, he was no longer unfamiliar with the place. He took out immortal stones to exchange information with some people. Moreover, the number of immortals in the heavenly earth desolate city had doubled. These people were all experts above the heaven immortal realm, and there were very few cave immortals. Without asking, it was obvious that these people were here to try their luck because of the legendary Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's inheritance. Cave immortals could travel through the void. Naturally, cultivators above the heaven immortal realm could also come to the distant heavenly earth desolate city. Most of them came from the immortal Ao Great World. After all, this void was very close to the immortal Ao Great World. However, there were also many immortals from the Yuanlu Great World. Almost half of them were disciples of factions. Su Fang was too insignificant among them. He was just a cave immortal and an evil Tao cultivator. How could he attract the attention of others? From the information he gathered, the situation in the Huangze astral world made Su Fang feel that danger lurked everywhere. Some famous experts of the great worlds entered the Huangze astral world to fight for treasures. Some factions also sent experts in. Even the constellation of 9 heavens sent many experts. There were also some rumors about monk Shangde. It was said that he had disappeared for a long time. There were also rumors that he was killed by some expert. There was also some news about Bai Tsubing. In order to fight for treasures, he had offended a major faction. Now he was also being pursued in the Huangze astral world. After all these years, Su Fang also knew that experts like monk Shangde and Bai Tsubing were peerless experts who were famous in the Yuanlu Great World and the immortal Ao Great World. Both of them were extraordinary. They were both righteous and evil. Many people thought that they were from the evil Tao. What he was most concerned about was the heavenly light mystical flame and some news about the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's inheritance. Fortunately, the heavenly light mystical flame had not been spread out and was obtained by a cultivator. However, there were still more cultivators who went to the Silent Flame Plains to fight for treasures. As for the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's inheritance, there were too many rumors about it. Some said that someone had already obtained it. Some said that people like monk Shangde, who had obtained the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's treasures, had secretly entered the place of inheritance. Moreover, it was rumored that among the 2 danger zones, the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's inheritance was the most likely location. From Su Fang's point of view, these were all groundless rumors. However, it was these various rumors that attracted countless people to the Huangze astral world. In order to let the junior commander and Yao Immortal consume the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Elixir during this period of time, he also secretly bought a large amount of elixir refining materials in the heavenly earth desolate city. There were 14 slaves refining elixirs in the Snake Spirit Immortal Swallowing Cauldron. He only needed to find the materials. Moreover, he did not know how long he would need to come to the Huangze astral world this time. In short, he still had close to 100 years to fight for treasures in the Huangze astral world. When I obtain the heavenly light mystical flame, it will be the time for me to come to the great world and transform. When I become stronger, I will return to the constellation of 9 heavens. It will be easier for me to secretly absorb the great pregnant purple aura, especially when I enter those cauldrons. The purple aura there is the strongest. If I can't become a high-level disciple, I won't be able to get close to those cauldrons. At this moment, Su Fang had already left the heavenly earth desolate city. In front of him was the extremely familiar nebula world. The Huangze astral world was in the depth. After passing through the nebula world, he would once again step into the Huangze astral world. After finding a valley, Su Fang first released the 14 slaves. In the end, they all began to break through at the same time. After Su Fang set up the array, the 14 slaves began to break through at the same time, stepping into the cave immortal realm from the spirit immortal realm. Chapter 10:16. Allowing the 14 slaves to break through and become cave immortals, their speed of refining yin-yang immortal sky pills in the snake spirit immortal swallowing cauldron would naturally increase by several times. They could also refine some middle-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills. In the future, he could summon them to cast the merciless sword spy. Its power would naturally be unpredictable, and it could at least deal with heavenly immortal powerhouses. Not only did he summon the 14 slaves, but Su Fang also let Green Feather King, Bai Ling, the Undying Tortoise, Zhu Huang, and other big goblin appear first, and then let the other small commanders appear. In the valley, several tens of thousands of big goblin appeared. Su Fang gave them a large number of pills, and also released a large array to cover the entire valley. He activated a great mystique, and let these big goblin cultivate inside. As for Lu Xiong, he led dozens of demon immortals to hide outside the valley. After doing all this, everyone was improving their strength, and Su Fang was also cultivating. Although the spiritual qi in the astral desolate swamp was very little, he added the divine might of the world to the array, and the spiritual qi inside was very abundant. This was the height of breaking through to cave immortal. The last time he came to the astral desolate swamp, if not for baby snoring, he would not have been able to move an inch, and would have been shackled very horribly. But now, the divine might of the world was much weaker. He could finally be like baby Huang Fu in the past, and be able to control the astral desolate swamp to a certain extent. After a long time, he finally absorbed the big goblin into his body. Especially Bai Ling, Green Feather King, and the Undying Tortoise, because they were constantly devouring Su Fang's resources. It could be said that Su Fang gave them whatever resources he had to cultivate. Therefore, the strength of these big goblin was on par with Su Fang. They had reached the peak of cave immortal and the strength of heavenly immortal. The strongest was still Bai Ling. Not only did she have the chaos ring, but she also had the power of chaos from the heaven monarch of chaos. In addition to the wonderful chaos mental cultivation method, it could be said that Bai Ling's strength still surpassed Su Fang's. Moreover, her cultivation speed was also very terrifying. Who asked Su Fang to be so generous and constantly distribute resources to everyone? After leaving the valley, Su Fang headed straight for the solitary flame plains. As for the search for the ancient Devil Golden Core's secret training ground, it would take some time. The demon dojo could wait, but the heavenlight mysterious flame would not wait. Once it met a true expert or someone with great luck, it would be snatched away. He really wanted to have another true body. Therefore, he was looking forward to the Fire Cloud Emperor body. Furthermore, fire elemental mystiques were incomparably powerful existences in the world. At this time, while traveling through the Huangze astral world and passing through various dangerous places, Su Fang still felt incomparably dangerous, but his condition was much better than before. The key was that as his realm increased, his control of the world aura and the power of the great perfection allowed him to guard against danger. After a long time, a shocking scarlet star mist appeared in the depths of the wasteland. He had already arrived at the periphery of the solitary flame plains. After passing through a piece of land, he saw the familiar magma land from the star mist. At the same time, with his great perfection vision, he saw some cultivators resting in different places. Some of them were fire elemental cultivators like Qi Yanzi. Su Fang pretended not to see and continued to fly slowly into the depth. Gradually, there were some shocking magma lakes and even rivers. The world was almost in a state of burning. Even though Su Fang had reached the fourth Dao Cave Immortal Realm, he felt like his skin was about to peel off. Finally, he arrived near the magma waterfall again. Before he could get any closer, there were cultivators around the magma waterfall. At least 1,000 of them appeared with Su Fangda's great perfection ability. They were all resting near the magma waterfall. They were probably looking for the heaven-light mysterious flame, injured or recuperating. None of the cultivators here were cave immortals. The weakest ones were at the heavenly barrier realm. There are quite a lot of Star Palace disciples. There are more than 100 of them. Since there were so many of them around the magma waterfall, Su Fang was not careless. He flew directly into the magma waterfall and landed on a barren mountain surrounded by magma. There were also some cultivators resting here. These people saw that Su Fang was a cave immortal. Although they were hostile, they did not dare to provoke him because he was a demonic cultivator. He also heard some people secretly talking about him. A cave immortal cultivator dares to come here? Look, he's a demonic cultivator. Could he be a cultivator from Heaven Demon Mountain? I guess so. A large number of demonic cultivators from Heaven Demon Mountain have appeared in the Huangze Astral for the legendary inheritance of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. There are also many experts from Heaven Demon Mountain in the Silent Flame Plains. They were discussing in low voices, but Su Fang could hear them clearly. Heaven Demon Mountain. Su Fang suddenly had an impression. There were records of this force in the basic secret books of Star Palace. Heaven Demon Mountain was a force as powerful as the constellation of 9 heavens. The difference was that it was a demonic force that was relatively far away from this void. It was the most powerful demonic force in this great world. They came for the inheritance of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Since even Heaven Demon Mountain was alarmed, did it mean that the inheritance of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor was not as simple as a legend? Su Fang approached again and saw the disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens. There were more than 100 people, all of whom were above the Heaven Immortal Realm. Fortunately, Su Fang had changed his appearance at this time. When he secretly sized up the disciples of the constellation of 9 heavens from afar, he did not see a familiar face, nor did he see Qi Yanzi. These people were definitely disciples of the inner dojos. Su Fang carefully observed for a while. These disciples were cultivators from the inner dojos of Star Palace, the Heavenly Fire Mystic Realm. The Heavenly Fire Mystic Realm was a dojo that specialized in cultivating fire elemental magical powers. Qi Yanzi was a disciple of the Heavenly Fire Mystic Realm, which was why Su Fang thought of this secret book. However, a disciple like Qi Yanzi was probably not as simple as an elite disciple. It would not be a problem for him to become a special disciple. The other experts around were almost all disciples of forces from the immortal Ao Great World and the Yuan Lu Great World. There were very few itinerant cultivators. The Heavenly Fire had alarmed many major forces. On one hand, these forces were here for the Heavenly Fire. On the other hand, they were also here for the treasure. Of course, they were also here for the inheritance of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor. Thump, thump. Suddenly, the rocks under his feet that were wrapped in magma trembled, as if the magma waterfall below was about to erupt again. It's probably the Heavenly Fire again. He heard an expert from a force beside him secretly discussing. There were also people flying down the magma waterfall. Su Fang finally stopped waiting and stopped watching. He released his aura and flew into the bottomless magma waterfall with his insignificant cave immortal cultivation. The magma waterfall was like a furnace. Magma was spewing everywhere and sparks were exploding. Previously, he could still see many experts, but suddenly, as the sparks exploded, everything was covered. Su Fang felt like he had fallen into the boiling magma. Fortunately, he had already activated the illusory fire cloud and the pure yang true fire. The two immortal fires fused together. Su Fang's aura was a supreme fire-type divine might, just enough to restrain the burning magma. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, more than a dozen scorched cultivators flew into the sky in panic. A few more people jumped down from above and entered the depths of the waterfall. When Su Fang arrived at the depths, he still saw many experts from the Chamber of Commerce fishing for items in the depths of the waterfall. After a burst of aura, a gap appeared in the waterfall. Su Fang took the opportunity to jump through it. He passed through the magma waterfall and arrived in front of a large number of flaming caves in the depth. This place was much quieter, as if it was another world. From time to time, some cultivators would appear from the flaming caves and quickly disappear into the cave. After releasing the power of Great Circle, in addition to filling the entire world with the power of flames, there were thousands of cultivators in the cave. Most of them were heavenly immortals. He also felt a familiar aura. It was the true Qi from the constellation of 9 heavens. There were hundreds of disciples from the constellation of 9 heavens in one of the flaming caves. Their auras did not move. They were probably disciples of the Star Palace waiting inside. At this moment, there were bursts of power in the depths of the caves from time to time. Some of the vibrations made people feel like they were going to be swallowed by magma at any moment. There were cultivators in almost every cave. Su Fang could only brace himself and enter one of the caves. The moment he stepped in, he was stared at by several gazes. There were cultivators sitting cross-legged on the rocks inside. They were either using barriers or spirit stones to protect themselves. Demonic Tao cultivators, you came at the right time. Suddenly, more than a dozen cultivators flew out from the cave behind him. These people all had crimson Taoist robes. There were many flame totems on them. Before Su Fang could react, one of them suddenly released a shackling divine power and shackled Su Fang. This person was a middle-aged man. He was not in the heavenly immortal realm, but an expert who had surpassed the heavenly immortal realm. He indifferently grabbed Su Fang and brought him in front of him. "Are you a disciple of the demonic mountain? If I had known, I would have transformed into a righteous cultivator." Su Fang hurriedly explained, "Senior, I'm just an itinerant cultivator. I was originally a righteous cultivator, but later I met a demonic expert and was infected with demonic poison. In order to detoxify the poison, I could only cultivate demonic power to save my life. Over time I became like this. You're from the demonic mountain, but what a fourth Tao realm cave immortal ant. You probably came here to find the demonic mountain and join it." Another expert snorted disdainfully. Another expert smiled coldly. "The demonic mountain's Baimo monarch killed our Huayan Shinrikyo's experts in order to snatch the Heavenlight's strange fire. He killed every demonic cultivator he saw." Huayan Shinrikyo. Su Fang was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. He sized up these people and secretly sighed. "I didn't expect these people to be Huayan Shinrikyo's disciples. The Huayan Shinrikyo is the immortal Ao Great World, the #1 force in the Inferno immortal realm. It's also a huge force that created an immortal realm. It's as powerful as the constellation of 9 heavens." He was too unlucky to have encountered such a huge force. It was not inferior to the constellation of 9 heavens. They were all peerless forces. Moreover, he was now a demonic cultivator, so it was not good for him. These people forced Su Fang into the depths of the cave, which shocked Su Fang again. There were more than 200 Huayan Shinrikyo experts inside. It turned out that a group of peerless experts had come. The Huayan Shinrikyo was famous all over the world. They used fire elemental divine abilities to control the Inferno immortal realm and create an immortal realm. It seemed that they had to obtain the Heavenlight abnormal flame. After the two sides met, Su Fang saw more than a dozen demonic cultivators who were shackled. There were no cave immortals, and they were all demonic cultivators above the sky immortal realm. He was also suppressed within it. There were more than 200 Huayan Shinrikyo experts in front of him. Suddenly, he heard the middle-aged immortal who had captured him talking to an old man. Junior apprentice brother Yu Jingyan has been greatly nurtured by the sect, and he even asked you to accompany him here. He wants so many of us to accompany him to obtain the heaven-light abnormal flame. It's good if he succeeds. Don't think too much. This world is a world of geniuses. The sect has always focused on nurturing talented people. Yu Jingyan is young and promising. He entered the sect and was nurtured as a genius. It is the sect's fortune to have such an expert. Don't add your personal grudges into this. But if we continue to wait like this, can he rely on himself to obtain the heaven-light abnormal flame from so many experts? Chapter 10:17. The heavenly mystical flame is very powerful. It can control a large number of cultivators into puppets and make us humans kill each other. Yu Jingyan is probably thinking of a way to find the true body of the heavenly mystical flame. He will ask us to attack together. The middle-aged man and the old man secretly exchanged a few words and ordered the surrounding disciples to continue waiting. Other than the middle-aged man and the old man who were discussing Yu Jingyan, the other experts also whispered to each other from time to time. Even these experts and disciples from Huayan Shinrikyo felt uneasy in this wasteland. First, they were afraid of the heavenly mystical flame. Why were they afraid of it? Wasn't it just a mystical flame seed? In fact, that wasn't the case. The heavenly mystical flame actually had some kind of divine power that could control the thoughts of the cultivators who broke into the waterfall to steal the treasure. After controlling these people, they would become puppets and fight with the human experts in this cave. Other than the heavenly mystical flame, they were also afraid of the demons of Demonic Mountain. The demons of Demonic Mountain didn't care about the constellation of 9 heavens or the Huayan Shinrikyo. If they wanted to kill, no one could escape. For example, the Baimo monarch that the old man mentioned before was a powerful demon of the Celestial Demon Mountain. His name was well known. This time, he led a group of Celestial Demon Mountain cultivators to the Silent Flame Plains to snatch the heavenly light unusual fire. The Baimo sovereign had killed many Huayan Shinrikyo experts, and even killed many disciples of Star Palace. These disciples were naturally afraid of that demon. Su Fang looked at the suppressed cultivators of the demonic path, and found that these people couldn't escape at all. They were all celestial immortals, and there were only 2 cave immortals. With such little cultivation, they naturally couldn't compete with the Huayan Shinrikyo. We're going to die in the hands of this Huayan Shinrikyo. After waiting for a few days, the disciples guarding the place no longer paid attention to the suppressed cultivators of the demonic path. One of them suddenly spoke. Su Fang looked at that person. It was a demon of the celestial immortal realm. His cultivation wasn't low, probably at the peak of the celestial immortal realm. He could be considered an expert. I am a disciple of Demonic Mountain. He secretly suppressed his voice and said to the Devil Path cultivators in a hoarse voice, "Do you know how the Huayan Shinrikyo is going to deal with us?" In the depths of this cave, the heavenly flame somehow managed to refine many human masters into puppets to help it deal with us. We are the bait. In order to find the true body of the heavenly flame, the Huayan Shinrikyo will use us as bait to attract those puppets. Therefore, we have no way out. You're a disciple of Demonic Mountain, so your strength and knowledge surpass ours. Do you have any way for us to escape? Someone asked impatiently. The disciple of Celestial Worthy Mountain mocked himself. Unless our sect's sovereign Baimo takes action. Unfortunately, we're all suppressed and our auras are sealed. As young immortals, we can't release our auras. Otherwise, I can inform the masters of the sect to launch a sneak attack on the Huayan Shinrikyo and rescue us. Although I don't have a way now, as long as you have the chance later, think of a way to release your auras. Once the demonic aura is released, the masters of Celestial Worthy Mountain will definitely rescue you. Whether you can survive or not depends on your luck. As soon as he said that, no one was spirited. The heavenly flame can actually control humans and use them to deal with cultivators. Su Fang suddenly understood why so many experts had come to seize the heavenly flame after so many years had passed since the last time he was here. However, none of them succeeded. It turned out that the heavenly flame had such a method. In order to prepare and act as bait, Su Fang had secretly used his method. He used the true demon blood plate to attack the Yang immortal seal and let the power of Yin and Yang devour the seal that shackled his body. Fortunately, he had been prepared. On this day, a young man suddenly appeared. With just a glance, Su Fang guessed that he was the Huayan Shinrikyo's genius, Yu Jingyan. Yu Jingyan's aura clearly surpassed Qi Yanzi's. Qi Yanzi wasn't a match for him. Only Huang Fu Fei had that mysterious power to fight with Yu Jingyan. He truly was a peerless expert. Such an expert was practically on the same level as those elders. How could a peerless genius from the Huayan Shinrikyo be mediocre? Yu Jingyan, who was dressed in a fiery red robe, told the elders about the internal situation. It would have been better if Su Fang didn't listen, but once he did, Su Fang got goosebumps. In the depths of the cave, which was where Qi Yanzi had fought for the heavenly flame, there were many experts on the same level as elders. They were constantly searching for the heavenly flame. The heavenly flame used the humans it had killed to refine them into flame puppet. It used the power of the natural lava in the cave to cause explosions again and again. Each time, it would kill or heavily injure many experts. Yu Jingyan seemed to have returned to find the location of the heavenly flame's true body. Before the dozen or so Devil Dao cultivators could react, all of them, except for Su Fang, were controlled by the Inferno Divine Sun Sect's experts. They formed groups of 2s and 3s, and then led by dozens of Inferno Divine Sun Sect's experts, they gradually entered the depths of the cave. They were about to reach the depths of the cave. Su Fang looked around. If there was really danger, he would have to struggle out of the seal. Suddenly, he found that the red-robed man at the front didn't even need to form hand seals to disperse the lava around him. Why does Yu Jingyan feel like he can suppress the fire divine might around him without using a fire ability? He communicated with Luo. Luo was worthy of being an existence that had lived for countless years. He was a bit surprised. That's a physique, you know. It's a Dao physique above the desolate physique. That's a Dao physique. In his mind, his dermic power surged. He actually knew that Yu Jingyan had a Dao physique. He had seen a desolate physique before. As for Huang Lingyao, he was well aware of how powerful she was. He didn't expect to meet another Dao physique in the great world, and it was a peerless genius of the Huayan Shinrikyo. In the future, Yu Jingyan would definitely be a peerless figure in the great world. One day, he would meet him at the peak. Desolate bodies and Dao bodies are the spirits of heaven and earth. Through special means or by chance, they descend into the human body. They are also a type of true body. Although they are not perfected bodies, these special spirit bodies possess astounding strength comparable to perfected bodies. Luo Yuyu added, desolate bodies and Dao bodies are very rare, even rarer than true bodies. In that case, Yu Jingyan was even more extraordinary. Looking at the blazing flames ahead, Yu Jingyan was a young man, but he was leading the fire-overflowing divine sun sects, middle-aged and old men at the front. He was clearly a supreme being. Whoosh! When they came back to their senses, they felt like they had lost their center of gravity. The surrounding flames were even causing the seal to tremble. They had already followed the Shinsun sect's experts to the central cave. The pressure had increased tenfold, and there was boiling lava around them. Everyone followed Yu Jingyan carefully into the depths of the cave. Some cultivators passed by occasionally, but when they saw the Huoyan Shinrikyo, they quickly fled. Su Fang also sensed the aura of the constellation of 9 heavens. Even with the lava and flames, Su Fang's great perfection physique was still shocking. It turned out that in the central cavern, there were actually many blazing valleys with lava spewing out. The temperature made it difficult for the surrounding divine sun sect disciples to breathe. Under Yu Jingyan's lead, they arrived at the depths of the cave and suddenly encountered a jet of lava, revealing an ordinary lava canyon. They quickly flew in. Soon, there was a canyon filled with boiling lava and flames. Several old men suddenly released their Yuan spirit. Go! Before the dozen or so suppressed demonic cultivators could react, Su Fang and the others were forcibly thrown into the depths of the empty magma cave by the divine sun sect disciples, where nothing but exploding magma could be seen. Oh no, let alone the puppets controlled by the Heavenmang flame, just the boiling lava around us can burn me alive. Break! It was like a cannonball being hit by a huge force. Su Fang saw the other demonic Tao disciples struggling in despair. He activated the power of Yin and Yang and the true demon blood plate, and a huge explosion came from his body. In about 2 breaths' time, they arrived at the depths of the lava cave. Su Fang was about to be smashed into the lava and burned to death. Su Fang flipped, and fragments of the seal exploded from his body. He jumped, almost brushing past the lava. As for the other demonic Tao cultivators, they were burned to ashes. They fell into the lava and screamed in pain. Unfortunately, with the seal suppressing them, they were unable to resist the lava and could only slowly be burned to death. A good chance. Su Fang's body was being attacked by sparks, and his true qi was constantly being burned away. But he didn't immediately flee. Instead, he looked at the other demonic Tao cultivators who had been lucky enough to survive, but were unable to struggle free from the seal. With a greedy smile, he shot out streams of true qi. When he saw one of the suppressed demonic Tao cultivators, he immediately sucked him into his palm. Those demonic Tao cultivators didn't even understand why Su Fang could move. One by one, they were sucked into his palm. Bang! Bang! In the depths of the churning magma below, there were actually sounds of collisions that rose into the air forcefully from the depths that were as red as a furnace. Su Fang used his peak true qi to take a look. Ignoring the remaining demonic Tao cultivator, he turned and flew deeper into the cave. Whoosh! It turned out that they were flaming people flying out from the magma. The 7 orifices of these creatures were spewing flames. Although they were made of flesh, most of them were charred black. Su Fang understood that they were puppets controlled by the Heavenlight flame. They had been attracted by the screaming demonic Tao cultivators, and most of them had rushed over. Surprisingly, 2 of the flaming men had discovered Su Fang and were chasing after him. Su Fang couldn't see the movements of the Huoyan Shinrikyo experts in the distance. He could only flee. Those 2 flame people were extremely powerful. They were at least peak heavenly immortal existences. If he fought them, he didn't have any confidence in being able to defeat them. Law suddenly said, "Don't forget, use your special sensing ability to sense that special flame's spiritual qi. The more extraordinary and special the flame's aura is, the more likely it is the Heavenlight flame's true body." I don't know how the heavenly mystic flame can control humans. After being reminded, Su Fang also released his great perfection ability, but it had yet to be discovered. Only by seeing the Heavenlight flame's true body will we know. After a long time, Heavenlight flames will also have a shocking consciousness, but it's still very rare for it to control humans. They're coming. Su Fang's speed was only average. When he reached the depths of the cave, he saw a crack and entered it. A breath later, the 2 flame people chased after him. Once he entered the crack, he was met with lava. It was very dangerous. He couldn't go in again. Going in would only lead to death. He suddenly stopped and turned around, ancient sword chi erupting from his hands. Merciless sword spy. After a breath, when he stabilized his body, the two flames charged straight at him from the magma. Su Fong clapped his hands and numerous flying swords flew out in an instant. Chapter 10:18. At this moment, Su Fong's eyes were flickering like thunder. In order to obtain the heavenly radiance flame, he had made up his mind. He could not let this trip be in vain. The emotionless sword spies shot out with whooshing sounds. The two flame puppets were emitting smoke from their 7 orifices as they sprayed out lava. Their entire bodies were covered in scarlet skin, and when they pounced over, their terrifying divine might shattered the surrounding scorching flames. Their cultivation and strength had surpassed Su Fong's. Chi. The 18 emotionless sword spies were like a group of falling meteors. The two flame puppets attacked with their powerful sword chi and speed, but they were instantly shattered by the 18 merciless flying swords. Under Su Fong's full control, the flying swords covered the two flame puppets with lightning speed. The flying swords cut open the puppets' bodies and severed their calves. The emotionless flying swords were like legendary divine weapons, cutting through iron like mud. Even Su Fong was frightened when he saw this scene. The two flame puppets did not have self-awareness, so they could not feel pain. As they struggled, they were unable to escape the 18 flying swords' killing array. Su Fong saw that the two still had storage rings, empty bags, and flying swords. He was overjoyed. It seemed that the two of them had been controlled by the heavenly radiance flame, but the heavenly radiance flame had not collected their treasures. Once again, Su Fong had benefited. After obtaining the treasures, the two flame puppets were completely shattered. After collecting the 18 flying swords, Su Fong went to the edge of the flame canyon and used his Grand Perfection Realm ability to see what was happening outside. It would have been better if he did not see it. With one glance, he saw that the Huayan Shinrikyo disciples were condensing a flame formation that was like a huge mountain. It was attacking the flame puppets controlling the lava, as well as the lava spewing around them. What a powerful divine ability! Furthermore, it was a large formation and a fire element one at that. With so many experts working together to activate the formation, such a flame formation was as majestic as a real volcano. It had the ability to devour everything in its path. In this way, the Huayan Shinrikyo disciples could use the formation to fight against the flame puppets in the lava. Huayan Shinrikyo is truly extraordinary. Through the power of the Great Circle, he finally understood why the Huayan Shinrikyo was as famous as the constellation of the 9 heavens. With such a powerful formation, they were confident in snatching the heavenly fire in the silent flame plains. However, he was unable to leave at this moment. There was no way out of the deep cave behind him. There was only the enormous cave of flames in front of him. They waited for a while as they watched the Huayan Shinrikyo kill the flaming puppets one after another. However, this was a world of natural flames after all. The magma and flames still held the Huayan Shinrikyo back. With the power of the Great Circle, Su Fong hid behind him. Suddenly, he saw a stream of magma forming a passage under a magic treasure. This passageway seemed to have been smashed open by a material object. The light of the magic treasure inside was also the color of flames. It could be seen by ordinary eyesight, but it could not escape the power of a Great Circle paragon. Su Fong was flabbergasted. That was a fire-type Dao item. Next, he saw the Huayan Shinrikyo's genius, Yu Jingyan, enter the flame passageway first. Then, 7 or 8 elders entered together with him. They controlled the flame passageway to enter the depths of the cave of magma. Su Fong understood. What an amazing method! That Yu Jingyan has a Dao body. The Huayan Shinrikyo's experts all have shocking flame control technique. Adding on a magic treasure, they can actually enter the depths of the magma to search for the heavenly fire. Perhaps the heavenly fire really was in the depths of the magma. If I don't go with them, then given how powerful the Huyen Shinrikyo is, the heavenly fire might be theirs. But I'm in the magma that can burn heavenly immortals. If even more powerful experts go in, it will be extremely dangerous. I'm only a cave immortal. I can also use a magic treasure to enter the magma. But what kind of magic treasure is good? Those that can enter the magma must be high-grade Dao items. Only the void dust cauldron can't use its true ability. Su Fang wanted to follow them and find the heavenly fire's true body. Just as he was anxious, Law suddenly said, "You can also take the risk to enter the depths of the magma and use Ruthless Sword Spy to turn the 18 flying swords into a defensive barrier. You can control the flying swords among the 18 flying swords and use the defense formed by the flying swords to enter the magma. Then, release the illusory fire cloud and add it to the flying swords. It will have the fire-type power to restrain part of the magma." Is that so? He didn't expect that Ruthless Sword Spy could be used like this. In the future, you can completely use Ruthless Sword Spy. In fact, you can enter the sword case. That sword case is also a spatial magic treasure that stores 18 flying swords. But your current realm is far from being able to use an ancient high-grade Dao item. Then let's do it this way. Xiao with Law's guidance. He activated Ruthless Sword Spy in an instant. 18 flying swords floated around, and under the control of Su Fang's mind, the 18 flying swords surrounded Su Fang and arranged themselves to form a layer of defensive sword light. Then, he activated the illusory fire cloud and added it to the defensive flying swords. Su Fang was isolated from the flame cave at this time. He floated alone inside the defense formed by the 18 flying swords, and the gap between each flying sword was filled with the illusory fire cloud. In this way, the magma sprayed and hit the 18 flying swords instead of Su Fang. As expected of Law, I can also activate the void dust cauldron, but when I enter the interior of the cauldron transformation and enter the magma with the cauldron transformation, I will be shackled in all aspects. But in the flying swords, I can fully release the great perfection perception ability and see the surrounding scene at will. He finally understood that Law's suggestion was extraordinary. Looking ahead, the magma spray was getting more and more powerful, forcing a large number of Huyen Shinrikyo masters to retreat, and they couldn't see the movement in the depths. Whoosh! Controlling the 18 flying swords, Su Fang flew out of the depths of the flame cave and into the large cave. He slowly approached the depths of the cave where Yu Jingyan and the other experts had fled. The magma continued to spray and hit the defense formed by the 18 flying swords, creating a shocking amount of sparks and burning power. Even the 10 flying swords had faint sword runes. From this, one could see how hot the magma spray was. Su Fang was sweating. Fortunately, it was the heartless flying swords, and 18 of them at that. Otherwise, even if he was given 1,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to do this. The magma was constantly swallowing the flying sword's defense. Su Fang was constantly activating the illusory fire cloud, and the consumption of his true qi was astonishing. Most of it was used to activate the heartless flying swords. At this time, they gradually reached the depths of the cave, and the magma formed a huge wave. So there are so many underground passages below. Just as he was about to reach the depths of the cave and see the world of magma, suddenly, at the edge of the magma, there were some flame caves spewing out magma. These caves were of different sizes, and most of them were large enough for cultivators to pass through. There were also quite a few shocking fire-attribute immortal stones and gems in some of them. In one of the larger caverns, Su Fang used his Great Perfection stage ability and immediately saw the unique flame radiance of the magical treasures. Coupled with his Great Perfection stage ability, he could also see through the layers of lava and burning wave. He saw the experts of the fire overflowing divine sun sect controlling their magical treasures, releasing fire element divine abilities as they carefully entered the caverns. Those caves were covered in magma all year round, swallowed up. Every single one of them was like a furnace, burning red like a giant soldering iron. It was too terrifying. Su Fang saw that the Huayan Shinrikyo experts' fire attribute divine abilities were mostly suppressed. At this time, they could only unleash their divine abilities and power in the depths of the cave. There weren't many heavenly immortal experts. His strength and ability were mostly suppressed by this natural danger zone. You don't have to be afraid at all. In this dangerous place, those with great circle physical bodies like us have amazing survival abilities, just like the monsters and beasts of the world. Plus, your heartless sword is an ancient magical treasure, and you also have the illusion fire cloud and pure yang true fire. Law spoke again. He seemed to be looking at everything outside through the blood jade. You don't have to follow those cultivators. You can use your great circle ability to sense the special aura of the heavenly flame. Other than that cultivator with the Tao body, no one can compare to your sensing ability. Su Fang cheered inwardly. That's true. This way, I don't have to follow them to find the heavenly flame. With the initiative, everything will be easy. At this time, he felt that no ability could compare to Law. Under Yu Jingyan's lead, the Divine Sun Sect experts also entered a cave spewing magma. Su Fang also began to move. He controlled his flying sword to defend himself as he slowly approached a cave. When he came to the flame cave, he saw that the interior was actually filled with magma. It was terrifying. He gritted his teeth. With the heartless flying sword to defend himself, what was there to be afraid of? Once he entered the cave, the magma spewed out, and with a whoosh, he and his flying swords were shaken out of the cave. He almost lost control of the 18 flying sword. The magma spewing was so shocking. If he didn't have the flying swords, let alone a cave immortal, even a cave immortal would be instantly turned into dust. This was all thanks to the heartless flying sword, the illusion fire cloud, and the pure yang true fire. Of course, if Su Fang didn't have enough true qi to support him, he wouldn't have been able to use these special methods to come here. Slowly entering the cave, he resisted the magma spewing again. Then he found a large number of fire-type immortal stones and gems. Once these were put into the snake spirit immortal swallowing cauldron, crucible transformation, or Xian Wang Six Paths Pagoda, they could bring amazing power to the magical treasures. Good stuff. He didn't let go of a single piece. He estimated that he had collected tens of millions of fire-type gems and immortal stones, and they were all put into the magical treasures immediately. Gradually, he came to the depths of the flame cave. With his great perfection ability, he could feel the aura of the fire overflowing divine sun sect not far away. At the same time, he also felt a special flame aura. When he slowly drove the flying sword to a curved space in the flame cave, the magma spewing was even more powerful. It turned out that there was a flame cave in front of him, and there were also flame puppets and some cultivators' auras inside. Although they weren't strong, he could still sense them with his perfection ability. It turned out that the depths of the silent flame plains were connected by these caves. This was probably the natural landform caused by the eruption of the volcano. He didn't know where the heavenly Mang heavenly flame was hiding. He continued to search in the depths of the cave, resisting the magma spewing again and again, as well as the power of the magma that could melt low-grade magical treasures. In the depths, only middle-grade and high-grade magical treasures could stand. Low-grade magical treasures would be burned by the flames in a short while. Middle-grade Tao artifacts could last for a while, but they would also be burned. Only high-grade Tao artifacts could really compete with these flames. Author's words. Sorry, I've been very busy these days. I've started to update 3 times a day. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 10:19. Soon, he found a few skeletons in a small cave. The skeletons had been immersed in the lava, and their flesh had long since disappeared. Most of the skeletons had also turned into flames. It probably wouldn't be long before they were completely incinerated. These people must have fallen into the magma, then fell deep into the magma, and were swept into these deep caves by the magma. He also found a few high-grade Tao artifacts, but there were no storage rings. There were only a large number of middle-grade and high-grade immortal stones, as well as other immortal stones scattered in the depths. Clearly, the storage rings had been burned by the flames, and the treasures inside had lost the space to absorb them. Most of them had been swallowed by the lava, and only the sturdy materials had survived. After putting away the treasures, he suddenly thought of the experts outside the lava waterfall who were fishing for treasures in the depths of the lava. They were probably looking for the treasures of the fallen cultivators. He sensed again and found that the Huayan Shinrikyo's aura had disappeared. He came to another cave full of lava, but still didn't find anything. However, when he went deeper, he found some Huayan Shinrikyo's aura. Then, a unique flame aura seeped out from the magma gushing out of the cavern ahead. Su Fang slowly controlled his flying sword. It consumed a shocking amount of true qi, but in order to obtain the heaven light flame, it was fine even if he used up all his true qi. Once he could cultivate the fire cloud imperial physique. This bit of consumption was nothing. He cared about everything else but not true qi. After all, he could recover it in a short time. There's movement. After sensing different heaven light flames, Su Fang continued to search deeper into the cave. Suddenly, the sound of a different flame exploded in front of him. He tensed up and used his great circle ability to slowly move forward. Inadvertently, a burning flame, and it was a humanoid flame, appeared under his great circle ability. It was in a curved cave 300 meters in front of him. He thought it was the heaven light flame, but he was wrong. When he moved forward a bit more, he sensed a cultivator. It seemed to be an injured cultivator, but it was an extremely powerful cultivator. He was releasing Dharma treasures and fire-type divine abilities to recuperate. How could a cultivator recuperating here be an ordinary person? It was clear that this was a peerless expert who was searching for the heaven light flame. However, even though this person was injured, he could still control the flames here. Just as Su Fang was about to go around the cave, he suddenly sensed that the man had stopped cultivating. Then, a shocking tremor erupted from the depths of the cave. Then, crazed lava spurted out from the depths of the tunnels like a ferocious beast. Su Fang was so scared that he hurriedly hid behind a rock. He watched as everything disappeared under the lava. If he didn't dodge in time, he would probably be swept out by the lava as well. That person disappeared. He went to the depths of the tremors. Could it be? Such a sudden tremor seemed normal, but it was possible that it was not a natural explosion. The sudden disappearance of that expert was a good proof. He immediately went to the place where the powerful cultivators were cultivating. After flying for a while, he sensed a tremor that wasn't too shocking coming from the depths of the mountain. Sure enough, there was movement. As he ventured deeper, he first sensed the aura of Huayan Shinrikyo. Then, he sensed waves of demonic energy, as well as the unique true qi of the constellation of 9 heavens. There were still so many cultivators in such a dangerous place in the depths of the lava world. As he ventured deeper, he sensed a unique flame aura in front of him. It was very special. It contained a kind of evil natural flame aura. It was probably the true body of the heaven light flame. That's great. As he continued forward, the lava spurted out, and a figure was swept over. It was a pity that he had already fallen. His robe had been burned by the lava. He hurriedly grabbed the corpse. Unfortunately, it was also an expert from the constellation of 9 heavens. Unfortunately, the robe had already been burned, and only the corpse was left. This was the corpse of a powerful expert. Such a corpse was enough for tens of thousands of junior commanders to absorb. There were probably treasures in the corpse as well. He first absorbed the corpse into the void dust cauldron and continued forward. Then, he came to a crisscrossing fiery abyss. Lava surged, and many experts were fighting in the lava. There were about 100 people, and each of them was at the heaven immortal realm. They were extremely terrifying existences. Under the surging lava, they were fighting around the cliff of an abyss. Su Fang first saw a few peerless experts from the constellation of 9 heavens, and then saw Yu Jingyan and a few elders from Huayan Shinrikyo. But he was still attracted by the natural cave on the cliff of the abyss that the experts were fighting over. That cave burned with a different flame. Su Fang was very familiar with that flame. It was the spiritual fire that Qi Yanzi and the others had fought over last time, which was the Heavenlight flame. The Heavenlight deviant fire was burning in the cave. The flames covered the entrance of the cave. Su Fang's great perfection ability could see through the layers of burning flames. Inside the cave, he actually saw a flaming elder sitting cross-legged inside. Then, a fist-sized fireball floated above the elder's head. He didn't know what the relationship between the elder and the Heavenlight flame was. Su Fang could only ask Luo. Luo Dao said, "That elder is a very powerful expert, similar to the elders of Star Palace. It's a pity that he was controlled by Tian Mang Mysterious Flame for some unknown reason. Tian Mang Mysterious Flame is controlling everything about the elder. Then, it is using the elder's body to release various powers. Those puppets are controlled by Tian Mang Mysterious Flame through the elder's power. So that's how it is. The Heavenlight flame is so powerful that it can kill an elder. The strength of the Heavenlight flame is actually not as high as the elder's, but in this world of lava, its strength is strong. Can use everything to deal with humans. I think that the elder died tragically in its hands. It won't be easy to get the Heavenlight flame now. You can only wait now. There are experts around you, you can only wait for an opportunity." Luo warned not to let Su Fang be too rash to snatch the treasure. A cave immortal, even with the merciless sword spy, couldn't possibly be a match for those experts. At that moment, Su Fang saw a few experts who actually charged into the cave where the Heavenlight flame was. In the end, they were shot out of the cave by a shocking flame and magma. They were seriously injured in an instant and their skin was burning and peeling off. Then, there were people who used magic treasures and charged into the cave. Magic treasures really surged out and charged into the cave. The Heavenlight flame couldn't control the magic treasures, so it could only use the elder's palms to fight against the magic treasures. In this way, the body of the elder who was being controlled was constantly in a state of being broken. In other words, the elder wouldn't be able to hold on for long. After he was defeated, only the Heavenlight flame would be left. With the power of the Heavenlight flame, it naturally wouldn't be a match for so many human experts. Then, as Su Fang expected, various experts charged into the cave from time to time, and the elder's body finally collapsed. At that moment, the surrounding experts clearly felt that the power of the flame at the cave had decreased significantly. The majority of the experts had charged into the cave. However, Su Fang saw with his peak power that the remaining Heavenlight flame seed had turned into magma, and a powerful divine aura surged out of the cave. Danger! This kind of feeling was familiar. Su Fang hastily hid behind a boulder. As expected, just as those experts charged into the cave, a large amount of magma transformed into a huge wave that shot toward over 100 experts. At this moment, the majority of those experts were using their magic treasures. A few of them were using their divine abilities. Even Yu Jingyan was using his magic treasures to protect himself. Whoosh! Boom! The magma surged and swallowed over 100 experts. What a powerful Heavenlight flame! It could even control the magma of this flame world. After this attack, Su Fang saw that the majority of the cultivators were heavily injured. Over a dozen experts had died, and even Yu Jingyan appeared to be injured. Then, the sound of fighting could be heard from the cave. It seemed that some top experts had taken the lead and killed their way into the cave. Su Fang was also preparing to go out. With his peak power, he saw a Star Palace elder charging into the cave and fighting with several other peerless experts. That Star Palace elder was probably a peerless expert from the Heavenfire secret domain or the vast ancient secret domain. As for the other injured experts outside the cave, they were naturally unwilling to give up. Just as they were about to charge into the cave, a divine aura suddenly exploded. The magma surging around the cave was transformed into a huge snake by a natural fire-type divine aura. The snake was 300 meters long and was formed from magma. It wasn't a real monster. Seeing that the divine aura had come from the cave, it was likely that the Heavenlight Flame was controlling it. The formation of such a burning magma monster scared the injured experts nearby. They could only give up on escaping. After all, this magma monster was hot enough to kill any expert, let alone attack. Fighting for the treasure was still dangerous, so some experts chose to live. But some experts did not leave and were attacked by the giant magma snake. Some ordinary fire snakes formed from magma also began to surge into the cave. At this time, there were only about 20 experts left, and each of them was a peerless expert. Even the owner of the Tao body, Yu Jingyan, was being persuaded by a few Huayan Shinrikyo experts to retreat. Success or failure depended on this. This was what Su Fang was thinking at this moment. Seeing that so many experts had come this time, if this continued, more and more experts would kill their way into the silent flame plains and obtain the Heavenlight mysterious flame. Therefore, Su Fang could not retreat this time. Under the protection of the merciless flying sword, Su Fang slowly approached the magma snake amidst the burning flames. The magma snake was like a real monster, attacking the experts around the cave. And inside the cave there was a shocking tremor. Soon, the divine aura of some magic treasures shook the cave until it began to crack. It was obvious that the experts were fighting inside. Boom! Before Su Fang reached the center, the cave on the cliff of the Abyss Canyon was shattered by the divine aura of a few magic treasures. The inside of the cave was suddenly exposed. The four old men were actually exchanging blows with one another in the midst of the collapse. One was an old man from Star Palace, one was an old man from Huayan Shinrikyo, one was an old man from Diabolism, and the last one was also an old man. Almost all of them were in their 60s, and each of them held a magic treasure in their hands. They could not wait to kill each other. Among them, the old man from Diabolism had a magic treasure that looked like a claw in his left hand. He released divine aura and grabbed out of the collapsed cave. He actually grabbed out a ball of burning spiritual fire that was 10 feet long. And the old man from Diabolism had a long whip in his right hand. The blood-red whip was constantly contending with the 3 old men from Good Faction. The Heavenlight Flame was actually suppressed by the old man from Diabolism. But the Heavenlight Flame was not really suppressed. It was just restrained by the magic treasures and divine aura of the old man from Diabolism. With the 3 old men entangled, how could they easily suppress the Heavenlight Flame? But this also meant that the Heavenlight Flame would really be snatched away this time. Su Fang watched until his jaw almost dropped. That old man from Diabolism has the aura of that cultivator from Diabolism Mountain. With such tyrannical strength, he must be Sovereign Baimo from Diabolism Mountain. Chapter 10:20. Baimo Lord Su Fang had seen how powerful that demon was. He could control the blood-colored whip alone, and his strength and Dharma treasure were enough to fight against 3 righteous path experts. He could even split a portion of his power to suppress the heavenly light flame. Russell! The giant snakes formed by lava were still attacking the surrounding cultivators. Countless small snakes formed by lava were attacking the 4 big shot. The four heavyweights who were currently fighting each other all had the strength of an elder of a major force. Su Fang could only hide under the flames and lava, waiting for an opportunity to snatch the heavenly light flame. Bai Mo Lord is probably no longer a true demon, but a powerful heavenly demon. Soon, the scene began to change. Bai Mo Lord was surrounded by 3 experts, and blood spots and blood marks appeared on his body. His nose, ears, and muscles also began to change. He wanted to transform from a normal human into a true demon. Once he transformed, his strength would increase by a lot. Bai Mo Lord was a peerless expert of Heavenly Demon Mountain. He was definitely not an ordinary demonic path cultivator, nor could he be a true demon. He was most likely a heavenly demon. Of course, he could also be a legendary ancient demon. If Bai Mo Lord was a true demon, it would not be difficult for him to kill the 3 righteous path experts. Fortunately, Su Fang was cultivating the blood demon true demon and was used to the changes and cultivation of demonic path cultivators. He knew that Bai Mo Lord was releasing his true strength. Su Fang also looked at the elder from the constellation of 9 heavens. He was not even 60 years old. He had a head of black hair, and his eyes were hale and hearty. It was obvious that he was a peerless expert. This person was either an expert from the heavenly fire mystic realm or the vast ancient mystic realm. With such strength, he was probably at the same level as Qiu Ranjing and Heavenly Master Luan. It was also obvious that the constellation of 9 heavens was determined to get the heavenly flame seed. Unfortunately, Su Fang had never seen the elder before. Some of the millions of disciples from the constellation of 9 heavens had never seen him before. At this time, the lava in the abyss was spewing more and more. Su Fang was almost burning his true qi to activate the heartless flying swords, the pure yang true fire, and the illusory fire cloud. He could not last long, so he could not help but feel anxious. Papa. He waited for half a day. Suddenly, even more cultivators were forced to leave. That was because even if the lava snake was destroyed, it would reform. It was an existence that couldn't be killed. On the other hand, the true qi of the experts was limited, and they couldn't bear the scorching aura, so they gave up. Even Yu Jingyan couldn't bear it, let alone these cultivators. Unless it was a peerless expert whose strength was comparable to the elders, then only 4 experts were fighting for the heavenly radiance mystical flame in the vast abyss of boiling flames. The other person was Su Fang, who was hiding in the depths. Opportunity, he was still waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, he noticed that many small lava snakes were crawling towards the giant lava snake and merging with it, turning into an even larger flaming lava snake. After the giant snake was defeated, the cultivators began to follow the momentum of the gushing lava and charged towards the 4 experts. At this moment, the lava was boiling with the movement of the giant snake. Su Fang, who was in the perfect state, saw a shocking scene. The heavenly radiance mystical flame suppressed by the demonic path's sovereign Baimo released a flame divine might comparable to nature. It was controlling the power of this abyss of flames, allowing the giant lava snake to deal with the 4 giants. The giant magma snake rolled up with a puff, and a large amount of magma spurted out from the surroundings. Su Fang was almost sucked into the depths of the lava. At this moment, he focused his eyes and saw that the giant lava snake had entangled the 4 experts in the center. The burning fire and lava shackled the 4 giants and burned them crazily. The 4 giants' auras, supernatural powers, and magic treasures were all clearly affected. The 4 giants activated their high-grade magic treasures. The magic treasures were really flexible in their hands, and their attacks were astonishing. Every magic treasure was an existence of astonishing quality. Their attention was focused on each other. Only by defeating each other could they obtain the heavenly radiance mystical flame. At this moment, the strongest was still the Baimo sovereign. He had turned into a heavenly demon that was similar to a true demon. His ears were like bat ears, and thick fur grew on his face. His muscles were covered in demonic patterns. His 5 fingers were no longer human, but a kind of claw-like existence. Every time he activated his demonic aura and released his supernatural powers, his muscles would tremble. The demonic aura contained demonic poison. In addition to the constantly transforming blood-red whip in his hand, each of the Baimo sovereign's attacks could shatter a giant mountain. The 4 of them were all peerless experts who stood at the peak of the great world. If this abyss of flames was not a wasteland, it would have been unable to withstand the divine might of their battle and turned into ruins. However, nature was an existence that humans could not shake. The giant lava snake entangled the 4 of them in the center and burned them continuously. The 4 of them wanted to obtain the heavenly radiance mystical flame. At this critical moment, if they shrank back, it would be equivalent to losing the heavenly radiance mystical flame. Whoever persisted would have the chance to obtain this peerless treasure. From Su Fang's point of view, the 4 peerless experts were fighting in the depths of the lava world and were about to be swallowed at any moment. Su Fang could not hold back his anger. His 5 fingers clawed at his skin. When will there be a chance? Because the 4 experts were fighting inside, their divine might was destructive. Thus, the lava snake was breaking apart and the flames were burning continuously. Su Fang could not see the situation inside. When they released their perfection powers, Su Fang was able to see the situation inside. The Baimo sovereign had completely turned into a heavenly demon. A blood-red horn grew on his head and his face was ferocious. He no longer looked human. At this moment, he was being suppressed by the Dharma treasures of the 3 experts. The heavenly radiance mystical flame that he had used his Dharma treasure to grab was also being suppressed by the divine abilities of the 3 righteous experts. The 4 experts had been fighting fiercely before, but now they were in a stalemate. There is still no chance. Let's continue waiting. When Su Fang saw the situation inside, he was so anxious that his blood qi was surging. He had also used up more than half of his true qi. If he delayed any longer, he would not be able to hold on. I'm not waiting anymore. Suddenly, Su Fang's eyes trembled. His divine might was no longer suppressed. The domineering aura of a small world's cultivation world lord enveloped his body. Since the 4 experts are unable to do anything to each other and are restraining each other, and the heavenly radiance mystical flame is being suppressed by the 4 of them and cannot escape, this is the best chance. Thinking of this, he actually controlled his flying sword and flew directly to the side of the motionless flame snake that was entangled with the 4 experts. He arrived outside the lava on the right side of the 4 expert. At this moment, the heavenly radiance mystical flame was being suppressed by the divine might of the Baimo sovereign's Dharma treasure and the divine might of the 3 experts. Separated by the lava, Su Fang floated outside alone. Inside the lava was the heavenly radiance mystical flame and the 4 peerless experts. He actually grabbed with his hand and the primordial chaos sacred mirror appeared in his hand. He used his perfection powers and suddenly opened his eyes. The divine light penetrated the burning lava and accurately sensed the location of the heavenly radiance mystical flame. Then, he retreated a little and slowly raised the mirror vertically toward the lava. The heavenly radiance mystical flame can suppress demons, cultivators, and any life forms. It can also suppress Dharma treasures. However, I don't know if it can suppress heaven and earth spiritual objects. As long as I can suppress the claw-like demonic artifact of the Baimo sovereign, it will be fine. That demonic artifact suppresses the heavenly radiance mystical flame. As long as I use the primordial chaos sacred mirror to suppress the Dharma treasure, I can also suppress the mystical flame seed. This time, I want to absorb the Dharma treasure and the mystical flame seed into the primordial chaos sacred mirror. After obtaining the primordial chaos sacred mirror for so many years, I was only able to open a passage to the primordial chaos sacred mirror when I broke through to the grotto immortal realm. I can transfer resources and energy as much as I want. A faint smile appeared on his face. He was no longer an ordinary disciple. Swoosh. He activated the yin-yang quintessential qi in his body, especially the power of the nine yang, and entered the primordial chaos sacred mirror. The mirror immediately released a red light which hit the magma. It actually burned a big hole in the magma, and the red light was sucked into the depths of the magma. With the perfection powers, none of the four peerless experts wanted to give up at this point. They were still releasing their Dharma treasures and divine abilities to hold each other back. Then, the red light burned a big hole in the lava on the right. It seemed to be melting, and the lava flowed like melted ice. The red light suddenly enveloped the heavenly radiance mystical flame that the four experts were suppressing. It also enveloped the claw-like demonic artifact in the Baimo sovereign's left hand. The red light instantly pierced through and covered the heavenly radiance mystical flame and the demonic artifact. This, the Baimo sovereign, who was about 30 meters behind the claw-like demonic artifact, was being suppressed by the three experts' divine auras. His sinister face and blood-red eyes revealed shock. What kind of Dharma treasure is this? No, that's my treasure. The Baimo sovereign suddenly released shocking demonic runes again. Blood-poison qi also erupted from his body. Waves of demonic qi carrying the blood poison surged into the surroundings. Burn. When the Baimo sovereign sensed the red light's terror, he began to struggle and release an even more terrifying power. Unfortunately, the three righteous experts did not give him a chance. Because the four of them were restraining each other, no one could break free on their own. All of this, as well as the Baimo sovereign's movements, were all seen by the perfection powers. Su Fang fully activated the primordial chaos sacred mirror. Qi. Qi. Suddenly, a flame surged out of the red light. As soon as this flame appeared, it burned away the divine auras and seals that were shackling the heavenly radiance mystical flame. Even the demonic artifact claw that was suppressing the heavenly radiance mystical flame was burning and releasing demonic runes. It seemed that such a domineering demonic artifact was about to be melted by the red light. Impossible. In a short moment, the struggling Baimo sovereign saw his left arm burning and demonic runes surging out of the demonic artifact. He felt that his left arm was about to be burned to ashes by the red light. He was a peerless demon of the demonic mountain, but he actually felt fear. A huge force suddenly surged out of his left arm. Poof! His left arm, from his wrist to his palm, was actually broken by this huge force. His left arm and the left palm that was controlling the demonic artifact were shattered and separated. The Baimo sovereign also lost his left palm and was forced to take 3 steps back. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the next second, the Baimo sovereign, who had broken his left palm, realized how decisive his decision to break his left arm was. He watched as the red light and flames absorbed his left palm, demonic qi, and the suppressed heavenly radiance mystical flame in an instant and disappeared into the magma cave. What's going on? The divine aura of that flame just now was so powerful. Like the Baimo sovereign, the other 3 peerless experts also saw the red light covering the heavenly radiance mystical flame. However, they weren't in the same situation as the Baimo sovereign, so they naturally didn't know how terrifying the red light was. It wasn't until the heavenly radiance mystical flame and the demonic artifact were swept away by the strange red light that the 3 leaders were shocked. They looked at each other and dissolved the power and divine auras that were shackling each other. They wanted to rush out and snatch the heavenly radiance mystical flame. But it was too late. Coupled with the loss of the heavenly radiance mystical flame, the giant magma snake that was entangling the 4 leaders began to melt and collapse without the control of the divine aura. Chapter 10:21. The lava snake was controlled by the Heavenlight's strange fire. The Heavenlight's strange fire had been suppressed by the fiendish powerhouse, Sovereign Baimo, with his divine powers and Dharma treasures. Even with the combined strength of the three powerhouses, the Heavenlight's strange fire's movements were only affected, preventing it from escaping. However, the Heavenlight's strange fire could still use its divine might and fuse with the fire cave. It could condense and control the lava snake. Now that Sovereign Bamo's Dharma treasure, left palm, and the Heavenlight's strange fire had been sucked into the primordial chaos sacred realm by Su Fang, the lava snake could no longer be controlled by the Heavenlight's strange fire. It naturally collapsed at that moment, as though a destructive explosion had occurred in the lava abyss. The four powerhouses were immediately engulfed. No matter how strong they could not withstand such a natural collapse. On the right side of the lava, in the boiling void, Su Fang had just sucked the primordial chaos sacred realm into his palm when the lava's collapsing force immediately sent Su Fang flying. Pa. The 18 heartless flying swords were originally under Su Fang's control, but the lava's collapsing force was too vast. It caused most of them to lose control, forming spatial rift. And because of this, a portion of the lava that engulfed the flying swords rushed through the gaps and into the flying swords' defenses. Whoosh, whoosh. It was as if a storm had swept into the flying swords' defense. Su Fang, who had been in a state of shock and unable to control his flying sword or his true chi, could only watch as balls of burning lava fell towards his body like meteors. At that moment, the lava was like a meteor that smashed through the planet's atmosphere. It fiercely struck Su Fang's arms, chest, and abdomen. It easily penetrated Su Fang's body. Before the lava passed through Su Fang's body, it was still burning. But after passing through Su Fang's body, it turned into blackish-red charcoal that sizzled incessantly. There were even more tiny lava droplets that constantly penetrated Su Fang's body. He was like a sieve. His arms, chest, and abdomen were filled with bloody holes the size of fingers and walnut. They were still burning with faint flames. His body seemed to have been roasted by fire. Even blood could not seep out of the bloody holes. This was how terrifying the lava was. It destroyed Su Fang's body to such an extent. If it were an ordinary person, they would never be able to recover. The lava had shattered their meridians and bones. What was even more horrifying was that between his lower abdomen and his chest, there was a charred and bloody hole the size of a bowl. His intestines and internal organs were probably gone. Pung! Whoosh! Whoosh! Su Fang looked at the uncontrollable merciless flying swords in front of him and the collapsing lava. He didn't care about his corporeal body and focused on controlling his divine orifices and bursting with magic power. Whoosh! 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 Fortunately, the powerful young immortal and the two ancient Dharma treasures were extraordinary at this moment. Moreover, Su Fang also had a perfected body. If not for these, he would have been completely swallowed by the lava and died instantly. As for the four great experts in the deep abyss and the magma ocean after the explosion, he was not in the mood to think about what would happen next. What I mean is that my physical body's strength is rapidly dissipating. I need to find a place quickly. He couldn't even last for 2 hours, especially in the depths of the silent flame plains. Not to mention 2 hours, even an hour would be difficult. Flying out of the flame abyss cave, they entered a large number of winding caves. At this time, because the four giants were fighting inside, the lava snake collapsed, causing lava to spurt out. Every cave was filled with astonishing lava surging and spurting out. Su Fang simply followed the flow of the magma and controlled the transcendent artifact to advance at an extremely fast speed. The magma constantly peeled off and crashed into the cave. Su Fang had no idea how many caves he had entered. It wasn't until he came to a bottomless cliff with flames that he controlled the feather fan and the ruthless flying swords to soar into the sky and fly into the depths of the cliff. After entering the cliff, he stopped in a flame seal cave and immediately summoned the void dust cauldron. Su Fong staggered and couldn't take care of the ruthless flying swords and the feather fan. He entered the void dust cauldron in a sorry state. The feather fan entered the void dust cauldron a second later. As for the 18 ruthless swords, they hid around the void dust cauldron, guarding the void dust cauldron like a sweater. It was equivalent to guarding Su Fong. The void dust cauldron stood in the flame seal cave, surrounded by burning flames and spurting lava from time to time. Fortunately, the void dust cauldron was an ancient high-grade Dharma treasure of extraordinary quality. In the depths of this world of lava, it would not melt. Inside the void dust cauldron world, Su Fong flashed inside and arrived at the center of countless array formations. It was as if he had arrived at the void of nothingness. He couldn't help coughing and spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood. When he saw the countless bloody holes in his body, even he couldn't believe it. Moreover, because of the burning lava, more than half of his flesh and skin were burned. Even his meridians were burned. Blood and bones could be seen in many places. Even the black lotus blood threads were burned along with his flesh and blood. This was the first time Su Fong's body had suffered such amazing damage. Almost half of his body was swallowed by the flames and lava. He lost half of his body. This was a peerless perfect body that he had obtained after thousands of years of cultivation from the small world to the great world. It was a pity, but it was also extraordinary. Bang! Finally, he couldn't help but sit on the ground. Fortunately, the yang meridian in his body, the world fragment, the origin golden core, and the subduing dragonwood left arm were releasing endless mysterious power to support his body. Otherwise, let alone reaching the crucible transformation realm, it would have been impossible for him to survive. He propped himself up with both hands and then took out 10 spirit strengthening and condensing essence pills and 100 middle-grade immortal essence pills. He directly poured them into his body and mouth. After that, some of the pills were squeezed out from the back of his body through the bloody holes. Now his body was really like a meat sieve. Many parts of his arms and legs were burned to the point that the flesh and blood disappeared, revealing pieces of shocking charred wounds and bloody bones. This was only for a moment. The destruction caused by the lava was as if he was also in the giant lava snake. With the collapse, wouldn't he be burned to ashes in an instant? The pills began to be digested, but the speed was too slow. Su Fong could now only control a part of his body's ability. It was estimated that it was only 1% of the previous state. This state of control allowed his body to refine so many pills. I really want to sleep, but I can't sleep. I have to find a way to let my body absorb the pills and various spiritual objects as soon as possible to recover. Otherwise, if I miss the best time to recover, it will be difficult to recover in 100 years. Su Fong thought for a while. A weak young immortal came out, and then Bai Ling also appeared at the side. When he saw Su Fong, he was very worried. Bai Ling came out to protect the Yang Immortal and cooperate with the Yang Immortal to control part of the void dust cauldron formation array. After explaining, Bai Ling shed tears as Su Fong's body began to collapse and turn into blood. Yellow spring blood sea. It turned out that he was going to use the peerless physical cultivation technique from the Yellow Spring Devil Emperor to recover from his injuries. After a long time, Su Fong's body turned into a pool of blood about 30 feet wide. Moreover, Su Fong's face was not seen in the blood. Bai Ling began to form seals. The seals were not complicated. Then, the Yang Immortal left behind by Su Fong burst out with divine power, and an array formation's divine power surged out. Whoosh! Hundreds of middle-grade immortal essence pills and a few special spiritual objects flew out from the blood. The Yang Immortal released his divine power and used the divine power from the cauldron formation to surround the immortal essence pills and spiritual objects. A black liquid-like divine power turned into a black flame and began to burn the immortal essence pills and spiritual objects. As for Su Fang, who was in the state of the yellow spring blood sea, he seemed calm and did not have any surging state. Until the cauldron formation turned the resources into spiritual liquid and sprinkled it on the blood suddenly burned with a flame of life. However, this flame only lasted for a while. When the blood merged with the spiritual liquid, the blood returned to its calm state. Soon, hundreds of middle-grade immortal essence pills and spiritual objects flew out and were controlled by the young immortal in the cauldron formation divine power. Moreover, 3 profound sword talismans also floated out from the blood. They were the treasures that Outyin Chonhen gave him in the past. At this time, he needed true qi. Su Fang's true qi was consumed to only 1 layer, so he needed true qi. 3 profound sword talismans? They floated above the blood and quietly formed a triangular shape. Then, starlight true qi separated from them and poured into the blood like countless tiny flying swords. Sister Bai, these middle-grade immortal essence pills can't make my recovery very strong. I can't even feel my strength recovering now. The spiritual liquid entered my body and only made my life force jump once. I need more amazing power. I'll take out some high-grade immortal essence pills to help me refine. Don't worry, brother. You'll be fine. The blood spoke. After Bai Ling heard it, dozens of immortal essence pills with extraordinary auras, immortal patterns, and divine power slowly floated out of the sun of blood. These were all high-grade immortal essence pills. Even heaven immortal cultivators would not take high-grade immortal essence pills, but middle-grade immortal essence pills. Su Fang was in the cave immortal realm, but he swallowed a lot of middle-grade immortal essence pills. It was very harmful. It was not easy for a cave immortal to swallow a single middle-grade immortal essence pill, but he swallowed dozens and hundreds of them at once. Now, he had to swallow and refine high-grade immortal essence pills. Of course, it was difficult for him to refine high-grade immortal essence pills with his cave immortal cultivation. Fortunately, he had the void dust cauldron transformation. Bai Ling began to be responsible for controlling the cauldron transformation's power and refining a high-grade immortal essence pill at once, while the young immortal continued to refine middle-grade immortal essence pills and resources. Every few days, the spiritual liquid would be poured on Su Fang's body in the yellow spring blood sea. Especially the high-grade immortal essence pills that Bai Ling refined. There was only a little of it, but when it dripped into the blood, it shook the blood and made it boil and burn with dazzling flames. Lua was right. Su Fang was a treasure. He was seriously injured and on the verge of death, but he could still use resources and Dharma treasures to recover. It was unbelievable. How many people like him could be found in the great world today? Several years passed unknowingly. In the cauldron transformation, Su Fang, who was in the depths of the yellow spring blood sea, was no longer in a dead and calm state like before. Now, he began to boil and surge, and the flames of life kept burning. More importantly, at the center of the pool of blood, a familiar face condensed into form. I've finally recovered to the 6th level. Su Fang breathed a long sigh of relief. Then, he took out 200 middle-grade immortal essence pills. This time, he controlled the cauldron transformation's divine power and used the shackles of the array to refine the 200 middle-grade immortal essence pills. Bai Ling no longer helped. He swallowed the pills and cultivated on the side of the cauldron transformation. Moreover, Green Feather King, Undying Turtle, Vermilion Emperor, and more than a dozen other big goblins were cultivating in the cauldron transformation. The most powerful one was still Lu Xiong. With its current strength, it was still the most powerful. Unless Bai Ling used the Chaos Ring, the other big goblins were no match for it. Chapter 10:22. Looking at the familiar big goblin, who were constantly getting stronger and their abilities were constantly transforming, Su Fang suddenly felt like he had returned to a small world. His heart was very peaceful. After a while, Su Fang said to himself, "When I met Huyen Shinrikyo before, I captured and suppressed more than a dozen demonic cultivators. Most of them were in the heaven immortal realm. Great, these people fell into my hands and will be used by me. It just so happens that the 14 slaves were in charge of refining the yin-yang immortal sky pill, so the ruthless sword spies will be controlled by these powerful demonic cultivators." It was still recovering, and it had only recovered to the 6th level. Su Fang's face suddenly released a divine power. From the other side of the crucible transformation realm, the array began to transform, forming a passage. In the passage, a Xian Guang rolled out, and there were 12 figures inside. Each figure was releasing demonic qi. They were the demonic cultivators that Su Fang accidentally suppressed when he was used as bait by Huyen Shinrikyo. Most of them were experts in the heaven immortal realm. That is, where did this demonic cultivator come from? Could it be an expert from the demonic mountain? That's not an expert from the demonic mountain at all. Among the disciples who came with my Lord Monarch this time, there is no disciple with a cave immortal realm cultivation like him. When the 12 demonic cultivators, shackled by the array, came to the bloody water that Su Fang had turned into, each of them revealed a shocked look. There was also trembling and fear in the light. As demonic cultivators, they were all scared to death when they saw the bloody life form. Su Fang's divine power swept out, coming from the crucible transformation realm. He pressed the 12 of them to kneel down and said fiercely, "I saved you from Huyen Shinrikyo to make you work for me. Huyen Shinrikyo is not polite to you, but I can give you a way out." One of the young demonic cultivators couldn't move. We don't want to die. We are all demonic cultivators. You let us live, and I am a disciple of the demonic mountain. Isn't this letting you off?" Su Fang looked at the cultivator and sensed the aura of Sovereign Ba Mo on him. "Looks like you're a disciple of Celestial Devil Mountain. I've seen Sovereign Ba Mo before, and his aura is the same as your devil chi. But he's an unparalleled giant. A heavenly immortal disciple like you can't even be considered a follower in front of him, right?" "Yes." The disciples of Demonic Mountain still thought that Su Fang was a cave immortal, and that they could use Demonic Mountain to scare him. But in the end, it didn't work at all, so they instantly lost their courage. Earlier, when I suppressed 14 people, they worked together with me to control the spies. Now they are helping me refine pills. I just happen to be lacking people. Most of the 12 of you are celestial immortals, and you can cooperate with me to control the spies. If you are unwilling, then you can obediently become my slaves from now on. But if you are willing, then you can continuously break through and enjoy all sorts of resources. Yes, we are willing. What choice did the demonic Tao cultivators have? Why didn't they lower their heads and admit defeat? Su Fang smiled. Unfortunately, these people's resources had been plundered by Huyen Shinrikyo. He used the power of a Yang immortal and a special gluttonous demon to transform into layers of seal seeds, shackling the 12 demonic Tao cultivators. From now on, these people were experts in his hand. After being shackled, the disciples from Demonic Mountain bowed to Su Fang obediently. "Master, we still have the shackles left by Huyen Shinrikyo on us. If the seal is not broken, we can't use any true qi or magic power. This is a small matter. You don't know what kind of Dharma treasure this is. This is the legendary crucible transformation from ancient times. This is an ancient crucible transformation. Activate the seal array formation in your bodies." Su Fang didn't take it seriously. Crucible transformation, and it's even an ancient crucible transformation. When the demonic Tao cultivators heard this, their heads buzzed. They didn't know where they were. The crucible transformation was really a peerless Dharma treasure, not to mention an ancient Dharma treasure. The 12 of them immediately activated the seal from Huyen Shinrikyo in their bodies. They didn't expect that as they activated it, a flame would engulf their heads and bodies, oppressing them with divine power. It began to devour their yang immortal and physical vitality. As the experts struggled, a mysterious black Xian Guang turned into the divine power of the array formation. It was the only power in this world. It immediately wrapped them up and drilled into their seal array formation. Then, it began to burn with black flames. Several days later, the demonic Tao cultivators regained their freedom. Su Fang also took out middle-grade immortal pills to reward these demonic Tao cultivators. After they recovered a little, Su Fang took out the 12 heartless flying swords and gave them to Fuse. As a result, these people saw the heartless flying swords for the first time. They were shocked and curious. With this curiosity, they also strongly wanted to fuse with the heartless flying sword. However, they needed Su Fang's permission to fuse with them. The flying swords were his. He sent the formations and sword chi seals into the minds of the 12 people. That way, they would be able to control their flying swords in a very short amount of time, allowing the 12 people to cultivate inside the crucible transformation realm. When Su Fang saw this scene, his heart was filled with emotions. Now, my combat power has reached the level of a cave immortal. I can kill them in one move. With these 12 celestial immortal experts and the ruthless sword spy, even a celestial immortal realm cultivator would be killed by the ruthless sword spy. Unknowingly, Su Fang recovered 7 layers. During this period, he swallowed a lot of middle-grade immortal pills. He even swallowed the spirit strengthening and essence condensing pills. After recovering 7 layers, Su Fang began to cultivate the yellow spring blood sea. At the same time, he continued to recover. When he recovered to a certain state of controlling the blood sea, Su Fang's eyes suddenly became extremely hot. It's time for me to start fusing with this peerless heavenly flame seed. Such a spiritual treasure of heaven and earth will definitely be powerful after I fuse with it. It turned out that he was preparing to fuse with the heavenly flame seed. Soon, the blood water turned into Su Fang's original body. He sat up cross-legged and grabbed with his right hand. The primordial chaos sacred realm appeared in his right hand. Then, he released the yin-yang divine power. From the mysterious red mirror, a ripple appeared. Then, a claw Dao artifact flew out, as well as a left palm and a fist-sized flame. Chi. As soon as the 3 treasures appeared, the Dharma treasure and the bloody left palm did not move much. However, the heavenly flame seed was struggling. Fortunately, it only struggled for a moment before it calmed down. As the heavenly flame seed calmed down, Su Fang was relieved. He looked at the left palm again. It turns out that I forgot that it came from the left palm of Baimo Monarch. Haha, this peerless giant from the demonic mountain actually had his left palm taken by me, a cave immortal. Your divine artifact is too extraordinary. At this time, Law said, I didn't expect that when you activate this divine artifact, it can suppress Dharma treasures, life forms, and divine power. This is really an omnipotent divine artifact. Your luck is too good. In the future, when you encounter a strong enemy that is difficult to deal with, as long as you have the chance, you can activate this divine artifact. Even if it is a spiritual mountain, it can be taken by you. Hearing Law's voice, Su Fang's heart felt a lot more at ease. I can't fully activate it yet. I just opened its channel and can let matter enter its internal space. Use your fleshly body to refine the devil's left hand. That way, your fleshly body will recover. After all, the owner of the left hand is a true expert from the great immortal world. He's far, far stronger than you. Just the left hand alone will be enough to heal your fleshly body and give you incredible power. I was worried that it would be difficult to restore the remaining part. Who knew that I would forget about this treasure? With a smile on his face, Su Fang immediately stimulated his crucible transformation powers. The crucible transformation power immediately wrapped around the left palm. When it began to purify it, Su Fang found that the left palm of Ba Mo Monarch had a familiar aura. After sensing it, he found out that it was the 9 Yang true fire and the power of yin and yang. So strange. After thinking about it, he figured it out. It was probably sucked into the ancient mirror's space by the primordial chaos sage. During that time, it was suppressed by the ancient mirror's power, forcing the left palm to fuse with the ancient mirror's power. Haha, great. This way, I don't have to use the crucible transformation power to refine the left palm and devour it. Since it has the ancient mirror's power, I can directly fuse with it. He didn't expect that the primordial chaos sage's divine power had already subdued and suppressed the left palm. Su Fang condensed a sharp stream of true energy and cut open a bloody hole in his chest. Was it because he had turned into the yellow spring blood sea and swallowed a lot of immortal pills and profound sword talismans? With the power of the primordial chaos sage, the bloody hole in his body had already healed. Now that he suddenly cut open a big hole, it was too bloody. Su Fang greedily inserted his left palm into the bloody hole. His left palm was quite big. Fortunately, Su Fang was at the great perfection realm. The muscles in the bloody hole seemed to have grown teeth. They began to creak and squirm, slowly swallowing the rest of his left hand, until the bloody hole fused. At this time, Su Fang's gaze was on the Heavenlight's strange flame. As for the demonic artifact, Su Fang didn't care about it at all. Heavenlight's strange flame, I've been dreaming about your shadow day and night. You're more of a lover than a lover. Su Fang used the power of the crucible transformation array formation to envelop the Heavenlight's strange flame. With a wave of his hand, the Heavenlight's strange flame slowly floated over. After sizing it up, he suddenly asked, Luo, how do I fuse with this Heavenlight's strange flame? My illusory fire cloud, when cultivated to the extreme, can form a true body called the Fire Cloud Emperor body. Luo Chu said in a shocked voice, a true body of fire-type divine ability is extraordinary. Extraordinary, extraordinary, extraordinary. You have a great perfection realm physical body, and you have the pure yang power that can fuse everything. You can directly fuse with the Heavenlight's strange flame like you did with the cultivation world fragment. Fuse with the Heavenlight's strange flame where you think it's the origin, then spread it out and fuse with your body. Because the Heavenlight's strange flame is too overbearing, you have to fuse with it safely. Otherwise, fusing with your body directly will burn you to death. You have to have the power to suppress it and make it submit. I understand. After hearing Luo Chu's words, Su Fang had an idea in his heart. However, I'll first fuse with the left palm of the Ba Demon Monarch and let my body recover to its peak. Then I'll fuse with the Heavenlight's strange flame. At this moment, he shackled the Heavenlight's strange flame to one side. When Su Fang sensed his chest, a pure devilish energy had already spread from his heart to his entire body. It wasn't just devilish energy but also terrifying life energy. Furthermore, it was clearly causing the black lotus blood threads to rapidly grow in his body. Su Fang didn't even need to use his black lotus true body, but the black blood threads were growing on their own. This was the effect of the Ba Demon Monarch's powerful body. The Ba Demon Monarch's power was like a primer that caused Su Fangda's various abilities to improve and transform. His flesh that had been burned by the lava seemed to have recovered, but some of his meridians and black blood threads had yet to recover. But now it was different. After fusing with the Ba Demon Monarch's power, his body had begun to recover. Adding on the fact that he had devoured quite a few medicinal pills, Su Fang's true qi had recovered. His flesh was also recovering. He had already reached the peak of the 4 Dao Cave immortal realm. Chapter 10:23. Although the recovery was amazing, the power of Sovereign Bamo's left palm was still not completely integrated with Su Fong. It brought about the crazy growth of blood vessels in his body and the growth of his meridians. Su Fong felt that his heart was like a flame of life, constantly burning. This was the amazing state brought about by the power of Sovereign Bamo's flesh and blood. It was like a raging fire, burning in his heart and then spreading the power throughout his body. Through the small heavenly cycle and the big heavenly cycle, Su Fong's body continued to grow stronger. At this moment, he swallowed middle-grade immortal pills again and again. As for low-grade immortal pills, they did not have much effect on him unless he swallowed thousands of them at once. On the other side of the crucible transformation space, 12 Devil Path cultivators were fusing 12 ruthless flying sword. They were all in the heavenly immortal realm. With Su Fong's sword seal, fusing the ruthless flying swords was not difficult. Bai Ling, Undying Turtle, Green Feather King, Vermilion Emperor and other big goblin were also getting stronger step by step. My injuries have completely healed. I can't absorb much natural power in the depths of the Silent Flame Plains. I have to leave this place. Moreover, this place is also very dangerous. I estimate that there are many powerhouses looking for the heavenly radiance strange flame in the depth. He suddenly jumped up and left the crucible transformation space in a flash. His body suddenly appeared in the burning cavern. The 18 ruthless flying swords formed a defense, and a feather fan appeared under his feet. He immediately flew out of the deep cavern. As he entered the deep cavern with magma gushing out, he was worried that he would encounter a peerless expert. Fortunately, he did not encounter any trouble until he reached the central cavern. When he arrived here, he sensed many cultivators' auras in the depths of the cavern. It seemed that most people did not know that he had obtained the heavenly radiance strange flame. After arriving here, Su Fong was no longer afraid of the magma. He put away the ruthless flying swords and the feather fan and quickly flew out of the central cavern. Returning to one of the caverns, he saw many cultivators sitting cross-legged and resting. Fortunately, there were no powerful forces like the Huayan Shinrikyo and the demonic mountain. After leaving safely, Su Fong flew out of the magma waterfall and turned into a Devil Path cultivator under the eyes of a large number of waiting cultivators. After flying out of the Silent Flame Plains, it was fortunate that they found the endless forest in time. Inside the forest, Su Fong summoned Lu Xiong and hid in the forest. Then, he summoned more than 20,000 junior commanders and demon immortals from the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda to cultivate in this huge forest. Su Fong also took out a large number of yin-yang immortal sky pellets and low-grade immortal essence pellets for everyone to consume. He even asked the 12 experts to assist him in casting a barrier to set up an ordinary sensing formation in the forest where everyone was. No one would have thought that there would be so many demonic immortals hibernating in the depths of the forest. Although they weren't powerful, their numbers were too shocking. After making all the preparations, Su Fong was no longer in a hurry. His purpose for coming to the Huangze astral world was to obtain the heavenly mystical flame. Now that he had it, he only needed to spend some time to fuse with it. The next step was to fuse with the heavenlight abnormal flame. However, Su Fong discovered that the last portion of Sovereign Bamo's flesh and blood energy had almost reached the peak of the 4 Dao Insight realm. He was prepared to break through the 4 Dao Insight realm and step into the 5 Dao Insight realm before fusing with the heavenly mystical flame. The heavenly mystical flame was extraordinary. It could even kill people like the elders. How terrifying was its power! Without strong strength and a strong physical body, how could one withstand its power? He was eager to fuse with the heavenly mystical flame and cultivate the illusory fire cloud to obtain the fire cloud emperor body. He took out a large number of immortal stones to create an altar. Then, He activated the true explanation of Misty, 9 transformations of 9 suns, the world fragment, and the 17 yang meridians to crazily absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although there was very little spiritual energy in the wasteland, with Su Fang's unique qigong, he could still absorb the power of the world. Whoosh! Not long after, Su Fang, who was charging with all his strength, suddenly exploded with a shocking flame. It was the tribulation flame that he had been waiting for a long time. He absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy from the altar into his body and controlled all his strength to attack his physical body. After a few circulations, the tribulation flame enveloped him and burned fiercely. He turned into a man of fire once again. The tribulation flame covered 100 feet around him. The impurities in the placenta kept pouring out during this time, and all kinds of sounds of impact could be heard in his body. After enduring for a long time, the tribulation flame slowly disappeared. Su Fang controlled the power of promotion to attack his physical body again. He looked inside his body and saw that the heavenly grotto in his golden core origin had turned into a paste state again. The 5th Tao mark began to appear around his golden core origin. The 5th Tao mark also appeared in his flesh membrane, enchantment, and divine aperture. Cave Immortal 5 Tao realm. The heavenly grotto quickly turned from a paste state into a heavenly grotto in his golden core origin. It was a deep star-colored hole. The heavenly grotto was in existence for cultivators. After all, it was the first realm for immortals to absorb the power of the world. It was especially important. If Su Fang had a golden core, he would also pay attention to the cultivation of the heavenly grotto. But now, he had the world fragment. He didn't care about this. As the power of promotion gradually dissipated, his meridians, flesh, and blood were all transforming. The same went for his divine aperture. There were also black lotus blood threads all over his body. Finally, after breaking through the 5 Tao Cave Immortal Realm, not only did he perfectly fuse with Sovereign Ba Mo's left palm, but his physical body also truly recovered and transformed. When he opened his eyes, the transformation of the Great Perfection ability was perfectly released. He could see everything within 5 kilometers of this wasteland clearly. It was incredible. This was a wasteland. Even if he couldn't see with his hearing, he could absolutely sense any movement within 5 kilometers. Sovereign Ba Mo's left palm allowed me to recover and break through another level. If I can get the power of a powerhouse like him, wouldn't I be able to directly step into the heaven immortal realm? His heart was filled with joy and he relaxed. At this moment, he really wanted to start fusing with the heavenly grotto strange flame. He was worried that the aura of the heavenly grotto strange flame would be too shocking, so he decided to enter the void dust cauldron transformation to fuse with it. When he came to the cauldron transformation space, he released his mind. The shackles of the array formation protected the heavenly grotto strange flame and brought it in front of Su Fang. The heavenly grotto strange flame was a treasure of heaven and earth. It was a strange flame seed. Before fusing with it, he had to use the Great Perfection ability to carefully sense everything inside the heavenly grotto strange flame. This was a spiritual object, so he needed to communicate with it first before fusing with it. After releasing the Great Perfection ability, he released his aura and began to fuse with the strange flame with a nervous heart. He thought that it would reject him, but when his aura touched the strange flame, he unexpectedly felt the familiar 9 Yang True Fire and Yin Yang True Qi aura inside. What's going on? He hurriedly sensed it and saw some Yin Yang True Qi aura at the edge of the strange flame seed. There was also a very terrifying and mysterious 9 Yang True Fire. At this time, Luo Zai suddenly said, "This is all because of your divine artifact. Its power is too terrifying. Whether it's a person, matter, or power, once it's absorbed, it can be refined by its divine power. It seems like it's the same as Sovereign Ba Mo's left palm. With Luo's words, Su Fang immediately understood. He also felt that the power of a primordial chaos sage was becoming more and more terrifying. There's another important point. This heavenly grotto strange flame seed is a fire-type spiritual treasure. It's a kind of flame. When it meets a stronger flame in your divine artifact, it's easier for it to accept. Therefore, you're really lucky. It's easier for you to fuse with the heavenly grotto strange flame. Is this considered luck? It can be considered so. Of course, luck is also very different. Others are truly lucky, but because you obtained a divine artifact and fused with the purple Chi Dharma spirit, you also obtained countless mysterious powers. In the unseen world, your luck is countless times better than ordinary people. I'm looking forward to the day when I can truly fuse with the purple Chi Dharma spirit. He continued to release his great perfection ability. Su Fang saw every layer of the strange flame seed clearly. He released the power of yin-yang and entered it. Together with the pure yang true fire, it turned into a wave of fire that constantly entered the depths of the strange flame seed. At this time, it was as if he was traveling in the ocean. After a long time, he finally saw the true heavenly grotto strange flame. In the depths of the flame, there was a drop of flame the size of a teardrop. It was not a flame, but it was a flame. It was like a special kind of scarlet liquid. Its flames were eternal, burning faintly, forming a fist-sized flame state with the divine might of fire. Moreover, he also saw that the teardrop heavenly grotto strange flame was filled with a terrifying aura. If it exploded at this time, it could definitely burn him to death. However, when he saw that the strange flame seed was burning with the aura of the nine yang true fire and the power of yin-yang, Su Fang was relieved. Obviously, the strange flame seed already had a certain amount of yin-yang power. It could be considered that it had accepted Su Fang. This was good. Su Fang heaved a sigh of relief and immediately released his own original power. It turned into the pure yang true fire that was mainly made of yin-yang power and poured into the flame. When he came in front of the strange flame seed, the burning state of the seed changed slightly. It seemed to have a consciousness, but its consciousness was not strong. It gave Su Fang a feeling that it was rejecting him. However, he still released the power of yin-yang to let the pure yang true fire slowly approach. Qi. When the strange flame seed came into contact with the pure yang true fire, it caused the seed to burn with a dazzling flame. This gave Su Fang a fright. Waiting for the sequel, the strange flame seed that was burning began to accept the pure yang true fire released by Su Fang's yin-yang power. The strange flame seed was also absorbing the power of yin-yang. The power of yin-yang was indeed the most mysterious power in the world. It was also at this moment that Su Fang felt a familiar origin power from the strange flame seed. Origin power. He remembered that when he was in the heavenly gourd realm, he stole the spirit gourd and accidentally obtained the world origin power. It turned out that the strange flame seed also had a shocking and terrifying origin power. Origin power was the essence of the world in the depths of the world. The strange flame seed came from the depths of the world. That was why it had such a shocking amount of world origin power. After chatting with Luo Chuan, he decisively took out the golden lotus stone flower. He let the world fragment separate from the world of the yang meridian in his body. It flew out of his palm and slowly entered the heavenlight's strange flame. When the world fragment arrived above the plant, it was not rejected by the seed's consciousness. The world fragment also began to absorb the strange flame seed's power. He had to let the world fragment absorb some power first. He released more yin-yang power into the heavenlight's strange flame. On one hand, he wanted the heavenlight's strange flame to acknowledge his power. On the other hand, he wanted the world fragment to acknowledge the heavenlight's strange flame's power. This went on for a long time. After the world fragment absorbed a lot of the strange flame's power, It returned to Jiang Yi's body and entered the center of the Yang Meridian's energy space. Heaving a sigh of relief, Su Fang looked at the Heavenlight's strange flame again. Next, I can absorb the Heavenlight's strange flame into the world of the Yang Meridian and begin to fuse with my physical body. Qi. However, before he could do anything, when the world fragment returned to the depths of the Yang Meridian and fused with the Yang Meridian and his body's power, a strange movement suddenly erupted. Su Fang was startled. He quickly looked at the Yang Meridian in his body with joy and urgency. When he arrived at the meridian where the 18 Yang meridians were located, the movement came from the meridian. At this moment, this meridian was filled with exploding Yang energy. A shocking power was stirring. Haha, the 18th Yang meridian. I have waited for you for so many years. It is finally about to mature. This way, I can step into the second transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformations. It turned out that the 18 Yang meridians were about to be born. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.